In this video, you are about to witness how Amazon FBA actually works, step by step with nothing held back. This is a real look at how to build a completely remote Amazon business from scratch. Whether you're brand new or you've tried before and got stuck, this will give you the full picture. Over the next 3 hours, I will walk you through how Amazon FBA works behind the scenes, how to find and source your first product, what tools I use to avoid mistakes and save time, and how to get your first shipment live without touching a single box. This is the same framework that I use in my completely remote business while I travel the world. I will show you exactly how it's done so you can decide if it's the right business model for you. Take notes, pause when you need to, and focus. This could change a lot for you. Let's get right into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get your popcorn, your favorite drink, whatever you need. We are about to dive into a 3-hour Amazon FBA course, step by step, for you to hopefully change your life and start selling on Amazon, within a month, within a 2 month, within 3 months, or whatever it is. But we are about to dive into it step by step and cover everything that you would ever need to know with selling on Amazon so you can have some success right away. Are you ready? Let's get into it. So, with the welcome and what to expect, we are going to go over with everything with Amazon FBA. As you probably know by now, I've been doing Amazon FBA completely remote, and I get a lot of questions from people on how do you do it completely remote, because there's obviously a picking and a packing feature of the business. We have to send inventory to Amazon, but I'm going to cover that. And if you want to do it from your own house and wherever you are, I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover everything you could possibly imagine when it comes to selling on Amazon and feeling comfortable to scale your business or your individual account to $0, $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 a month, and so beyond. All right. So who is this course for? This course is for beginners, aspiring digital nomads. So people who are looking to work and relocate in a different country. That means going to Thailand. That means going to Europe. That means going to a beach from Thailand, a beach from Bali, Italy, wherever you want to go. I've been a digital nomad for the past 3 years, and I know it like the back of my hand. And I've been doing this business for 3+ years as a digital nomad. So I know it better than anybody to physically do Amazon FBA from anywhere in the world. So aspiring digital nomads, this is also for you. And then lastly is side hustlers. And I say it all the time. If you want to create a small remote income with Amazon FBA, you can do that. If you want to create an entire business model out of it to live for the rest of your life and create something that's concrete, that will never go away, and want to be 7 figures, 8 figures, you can absolutely do that. So for those 3 categories of people, beginners, aspiring digital nomads, and side hustlers, get ready because you're about to be in for a treat, okay? So now let's dive into my story and then why Amazon FBA changed my life. And don't worry, as we start diving into some of the content, some of the sourcing, some of the specific details, I will shrink this bubble and you won't have to see me as big as I am now. But just for the intro part of things, I'm going to keep it expanded so you guys can see me well, right? So my story is I started Amazon FBA in 2022 of June. I think it was June 3rd or June 4th. And it completely changed my life because in 12 months from starting, I was on a one-way flight to Lisbon, Portugal. Now, I had dreams and aspirations, regardless if I was going to start Amazon FBA, to travel the world and do something completely remote or do something in another country, because I just wanted to do that. I just wanted to be in Europe. I specifically wanted to be in Italy. And I just had really big goals and dreams to do that. And came in Amazon FBA, and it completely changed my life because I learned with the business model. I failed in the beginning countless times. I didn't have any friends or people to talk to or any people to mentor me or work me through decisions. I just failed. I failed with cost effectively. I didn't lose a lot of money, obviously, in the beginning. And I learned. And then about 6 months in, I started networking with other sellers. I got a little bit of lucky in the beginning because I found a few discontinued products, which means products that are no longer selling from a retailer or from a distributor. So I was able to just get the last bit of inventory for those products, and I made my first few $1,000s. So I started with $250, around $200, and I made a few $1,000s just from those discontinued products. And then I was like, okay, here we go. There's actually a business model here. I can make something out of this. I can continue to grow this and make this a full-time income, so where I can do this from Italy or Thailand or wherever else I want it to be in that moment, which became Lisbon, Portugal, right? So after networking with sellers and getting the idea of how to do things at a bigger scale, I, leaned right into traveling, which was about 12 months in. Like I said, it was June 6th, the day I left to Lisbon, Portugal, which started my travels as a digital nomad. And then from there, for the past 2 years now, I guess you can call it 2.5 years, I have been traveling pretty much all the time, running my Amazon FBA business completely remote. I've now scaled it to a team, and we just hit $1.5 million in sales lifetime, which is exciting because we're on track to do $1.5 million just this year alone. So the business is completely growing. But the most important aspect and part of this all is that Amazon FBA has changed my life outside of in so many ways, but it's allowed me to give complete freedom. And I always say this, and to everybody who always asks me, and Amazon FBA has given me location independence where I can work from anywhere in the world and on any time zone and whenever I want. I don't have to worry about working on the United States time zone, even though there's a 12-hour difference in Thailand or Bali, or a 10-hour difference in Cape Town, South Africa, because Amazon FBA is a 24/7 around-the-clock business, 7 days a week, where I don't have to personally be inside the business, right? I could be just going about my day, and sales can continue to sell through because I have inventory going in, and I have sales going out because customers are buying products on Amazon, and I also have my team. And now that I'm at a certain scale, they're managing parts of the business where I don't have to worry. So it's created this unbelievable freedom for me. And yes, I'm not a multi-figure millionaire yet or a billionaire yet. Hope to get to that point, and I will get to that point. But it's just given me this freedom. And I tell everybody this all the time, and I've told you guys many times, is that when I first started Amazon FBA, I just wanted to make $1,500 a month, because that's what it was going to take to live in Italy, to live in Europe full time, and not have to have a job or some sort of boss breathing down my neck and have to worry. And that was my legit goal, and that's all I cared about. And obviously in Southeast Asia and other countries, it's much cheaper to live. But in Europe, $1,500 a month was the goal. And in the US, that's probably not the goal, and that's probably not realistic. It's maybe double that or a little bit more of that in some areas of the US, depending on where you live. In the UK, I'm sure it's like that as well. But that was my goal, and that's all I cared about. And obviously, I surpassed that, and I'm very proud of that. And it's just completely changed my life. And you're going to learn more and more as you continue to watch my videos, as you continue to watch my digital nomad channel of me traveling in a different country all the time, in a different city, and so on. So there's kind of a backstory of me, but now I want to try to make this a reality for many of you. I want to see you guys traveling, doing Amazon FBA completely remote. I want to do meetups around the world, do meetups in Thailand, do meetups in Europe, Italy, wherever it is, so that we can all be laughing and drinking a a margarita or out of a coconut at a beach, so that you guys can be happy, doing something fully remote and kind of breaking free from maybe whatever hole or struggles that you're in currently with a job and so on. So that being said, the structure of this 3-hour long video, right? Like I said, get your popcorn ready, your favorite drink, your favorite snack, because this is going to be 3 hours long. You don't have to watch it all at once. Feel free to play it back, break it up over time, because this is going to be so worth it for anybody looking to start Amazon FBA. And you could probably even take a lot of these tactics into your own e-commerce business if you got into drop shipping, if you got into eBay and so on. But TikTok shop, right? There's so many different tidbits and points that you're going to take from this entire breakdown video that you will take into other businesses in general, okay? Let's go over the structure, right? The structure will look as follows. Setting up your Amazon account, right? You can't do anything unless you have an Amazon professional selling account to actually sell these products. 2 is sourcing. This is going to be the most critical part of this video. I always say this: if you're able to master sourcing and find products, it does not matter. The rest does not matter. You can get every single other question answered. You can ask somebody, you can look it up online. But if you know how to perfectly source products, read the data and charge, which is actually very simple to do, and you're going to see it, then you will find a tremendous amount of success in not only this business, but in many businesses in the e-commerce space, okay? So that's gonna be so keen to focus on and dive a lot into that. Rewind that part of the videos 20, 30, 40 times to make sure you continue to master that, and go into all my other videos on the channel about sourcing, because when you perfect that, you perfect sourcing, you have the business at your hands, okay? Then we're gonna go into logistics plus prep center. So logistics is prepping the products yourself, what material you may need, the packaging, the boxes, how to send the shipment, and so on. But Prep Center, if you want to do Amazon FBA completely remote and never touch a product, never touch a box or anything, you need a Prep Center, which we'll dive into much more in the future of this video. But it's basically just a warehouse where they store, package, and prep the products to send to Amazon's fulfillment centers. Okay. Then we'll go deeper diving into product research. This is basically product analysis and seeing what's a good product, what's not a good product. So that way you always make the right decision. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you want to be right about 95% of the time when you're buying products. And of course, you can be right 60, 70% of the time, even 30% and find success. But the more and more times that you're right, the less problems or losses or anything like that is going to occur. So product research, and I'm going to show you how to read Keepa and SellerAmp, which are the two softwares that are safe havens in Amazon, like a master. So just from this video, you'll probably get a degree, a college degree in Keepa and SellerAmp, which will be very vital. Then we're going to go over to how to send a shipment. I'm even going to touch on how to send a shipment with a Prep Center, because remember, the Prep Center has their own softwares, they have their own tools, their own process, where typically you don't have to do the physical, sending to shipment to Amazon virtually when I'm saying this, because obviously they're doing a lot of the work themselves, because not only are they doing the physical work, but the product is in front of them, right? The size of the box, the weight of the box, and all the details about the box and what's in the box that's being sent to Amazon is in the hands of the Prep Center. So they're going to do most of that work, and communicating with them is going to be very important, just so you have an ease process in sending shipments to Amazon. And the quicker it gets there, the faster you sell it through. So that's important to key on too. And then lastly, we're going to go over scaling and the next steps to getting your business up and running and growing to a large scale, right? Because not only do you want to just do Amazon FBA, yes, it's great to do $5,000 in sales every month or $7,000, $10,000, but how do you make it into a real business to do $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, and so on every single month, so you have a stable income and a growing business, right? So we'll dive into that very much at the end, and then we'll continue to go from there. So last but not least, let's jump right into the first part of this complete 3-hour-long Amazon FBA course, which will be step by step. Are you ready? I'm going to make this screen a bit smaller now, just so you guys can see me more clearly, or see me less clearly, but you can see the screen more clearly, so you can dive into it and get some knowledge about Amazon FBA. All right, here we go. So part 1, understanding Amazon FBA. Many of you coming here to this video and watching all of the videos online, you have no idea what Amazon FBA is. A lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are doing it successfully. You've heard stories, good stories, medium stories, bad stories, whatever it may be. But what actually is the business model? Many people think that Amazon themselves are the only seller on the marketplace, but that's just not true. Actually, 60% of the sellers on Amazon are from independent sellers. It could be businesses or it could be individual persons. That's people like me and you starting an Amazon seller account and going to list products, whether that's working with a brand, a distributor, or buying directly from a retailer on a site and listing it on Amazon, right? So most of the business is done from us third-party sellers, and it's not just done by Amazon. So people get really confused and say, what? Amazon FBA, there's a business model, there's a business opportunity. Yes, there's a big business opportunity, and I'm going to show you why all throughout this video, right? So Amazon FBA, FBA stands for Fulfilled by Amazon, right? So us as the seller, the independent seller who's selling on their marketplace. Remember, Amazon has this marketplace that we all go to shop on every day. I'm sure you guys shop on every day or every other day like everybody else. And these products are listed on their marketplace. There's 5, 10, 20, $30 million or 30 million listings across all of their marketplaces, right? They have marketplaces in the US, Canada, UK, Australia, Brazil. It's growing every single day. Amazon's pretty much everywhere, right? And the point where it comes fulfilled by Amazon is Amazon, right, has their prime trucks, their prime planes nowadays, and their drones where they're delivering packages right to our door, right? So they're fulfilling the product, right? That's where you get fulfilled by Amazon, which means me, jayslarosa, I don't have to actually put the package in my car and go and drive it to, let's say, Arkansas, and drop it off at somebody's house. That would obviously be impossible and just completely inefficient, because Amazon has all of their trucks, their warehouses, their customer service, their tools, their team, and you name it, right? So the fulfillment is done directly from them. they have to package the product, put the Prime logo on it, put the Amazon logo on it, and deliver it to the doorstep at the next day, right? That's how we get all of our products within 1 to 2 days, sometimes same day. It's really ridiculous about how Amazon runs their business, right? So Amazon FBA is just fulfilling through Amazon. Now, we'll dive into FBA versus FBM in a second, but the alternative to Amazon FBA is Amazon FBM, which is us as the independent seller. Yes, we're still listing the products on their marketplace and looking to get sales according to the product, but we ourselves are shipping the product, packaging it in a box, taping it up, putting the label on it, and shipping it directly to the customer. Now, we're using a carrier like USPS, UPS, FedEx, right? Obviously, we're not driving ourselves. We don't have vans and trucks, but we're doing that fulfillment and packaging ourselves. So that requires us to then have storage, right? Because we have to store products in our house, our apartment. If you have a storage space or warehouse, right, at a scale, you have a warehouse where then you are basically becoming a mini Amazon fulfillment center. And that's what kind of FBM is, but we'll dive into that in a sec. So now that you know what Amazon FBA is, right, we need to see how it works. And it's very simple. You sell the products, right? You as the seller, you're selling it. Amazon stores and ships, right? So that's why we're sending our inventory there to their fulfillment center. So if we have 100 units, 200 units of a certain product, right? It could be literally anything, right? It could be this water bottle, right? Obviously, water bottles probably don't sell too well on Amazon. But for example, if you have a product and you want to buy 100 units, you then package the units in a big box, right? It has to be in the requirements, which is 50 pounds, less than 25 inches on a side. You don't have to worry about this if you do it completely remote because you have a prep center, but it's good to know. But we then ship it to Amazon's fulfillment centers. They store it. It's listed on our marketplace, on their marketplace as live. So us as a seller, we have our inventory as live on their marketplace, right? So now we have 10 units in stock, 100 units in stock, 200 units in stock, however many we sent to Amazon, right? That's what we have available in stock on their marketplace. Now we're one of the sellers competing to get sales with the other sellers in the marketplace, right? So when our product, right, when somebody goes on the, if we're in the buy box, which we'll dive into later, but if the customer chooses to buy our product, right, even though we're selling all the same thing, there's many different sellers, but if they choose to buy from jayslarosa, right, which is my Amazon storefront, then Amazon gets the notification on the back end of their warehouse. They take in the receivables and they package the product. They put it on the Amazon truck and it's on its way to the customer's doorstep, right? So that's really how it works. We're basically just the middleman in this situation where they're storing their inventory. We're making the buying decisions because we're buying the inventory. We're saying, hey, Amazon, store this at your warehouse. I think it sells pretty well. And then when it sells, let's do a cut on the profit, right? And it's basically what it is we're getting a cut on, we're getting a profit. We have to pay them a referral fee and their fulfillment fee. But obviously we have to do our numbers and our math to make sure that there is a profit for us as the business owner, right? Because we are the ones owning the product and buying the product. So we have to sell it at a profitable price to make sure that we're making money. Amazon doesn't care too much if you're making money because, that's their end of the bargain. They're making their money. But us as a seller, we have to make our money because then we have to buy more products and reinvest and just like a regular business, okay? So it's very simple on how it works. And the good stuff is really just how we do it. How do we product source? How do we send a shipment? How do we deal with customers? All that little stuff, right? That you have to dive into the middle, which don't worry. We're going to cover literally everything in this video, okay? So let's touch on FBA and FBM. And guys, don't worry. We're not going to just be on this Google Doc the entire time. We're going to dive off of this Google Doc. I'm going to show you how to send a shipment, how to source a product, all the different sourcing methods, how to verify a supplier, how to look at a supplier, what Keepa chart look like, how to set up your SellerAmp, everything that you could possibly need to know. We're going to dive off of this Google Doc and go into that. So don't worry at all, right? Now, circling back around, FBA versus FBM. I touched on it very little. So FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. That is me giving the product to Amazon to say, hey, handle all the shipping, all the packing, all the storage. You give it to the customer. I'll sit here and wait for the sale, right? And then I'll sit here and wait to replenish the product to send back into. FBM is, hey, I'll take the product into my own warehouse, my own house, my own apartment, my own storage facility. I'll wait for a sale on Amazon. When I get a sale, I'll put the product in a box. I'll tape up the box. I'll print the label all through Seller Central, put it on the box, and send it off to the customer. I'll go drop it off at USPS or go to UPS or FedEx, whichever carrier I use. You can even have them scheduled to pick it up, but then it'll be on its way to customer, right? Obviously, with FBM, there's no possible way to ship it, 1-day shipping unless the person lives 45 minutes down from your house or your warehouse, right? So it's impossible to get prime shipping with FBM. It's typically 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. And with that, that's one of the reasons why Amazon incentivizes FBA, as you can imagine. Not only do they make more money because we're paying them a fulfillment fee, they're also shipping to the customer 1-day prime shipping, which is what they advertise of. So if you see all of Amazon's trucks and warehouses and cars and planes, you name it, you see prime shipping, right? Because Amazon, they built their business off of 1-day shipping. It's unbeatable. There's not another company out there in the world that can ship products to your house as fast as Amazon does, right? So if they want to ensure the integrity of the customer, me, you, whoever else is shopping on Amazon, they have to make sure the product is arriving to the customer very fast. If they say, hey, we're Amazon and our prime shipping is 1 day, and every single time the product comes to my house 10 days later, it's like, I don't trust you anymore. You're not shipping the product to me 1 day and you're lying, right? So what's the authenticity and there's no integrity into your business. But Amazon actually honors their, fast shipping, speed of shipping, great customer service. So they incentivize, hey, independent third-party sellers, jayslarosa and whoever else is watching this video, ship it to our warehouse so that we can take care of the customer day one. Now, a little bit of an insight, I don't want to dive into it too much, but a little bit of an insight is Amazon, let's say, for example, I'm the only seller of this microphone, okay? Hope you guys can see that, right? This is a little microphone. Now, if I'm the only seller of this microphone, and let's say John from California, right? My warehouse or prep center is based in, Connecticut. Now, let's say John from California is saying, hey, I want to buy this microphone. I think it's a good price. He's a regular Amazon customer. This looks good to me. So John goes to place an order for this microphone. And how in the world would John get his microphone with 1-day shipping if I sent this to FBA, this microphone? Let's say I sent 100 units to FBA, and they're all stored in Amazon's warehouse in Stamford, Connecticut, which is a town in Connecticut, right? How would it be possible? It takes 72 hours to drive a car to California from Connecticut, and to fly, well, it would just be darn right unaffordable for Amazon to fly a package, because how are they offering free shipping? Meanwhile, they're paying hundreds of dollars to ship a package to California, right? So what Amazon does, they do a thing called transfers, right? So they actually take the product. When I ship it to Amazon's warehouse in California, into Connecticut, right? It goes to Stamford, Connecticut, their big warehouse, they're going to take it in. What they do is they take that inventory and they distribute it across the United States, right? Because if I'm selling in the United States market, they have to keep products everywhere in these warehouses in the United States market. Because if somebody buys from, Oregon and I have inventory in California, it could probably get there in 1 day. But if I was in Connecticut, there's no way that the package or inventory would get there in 1 day. So they would never be able to, show their prime shipping, their 1 to 2 days shipping. It'd take days, it'd take 5 days, 8 days, and logistically it'd probably take more, right? So they actually transfer your inventory and they disperse it, 20 units here, 5 units here, 10 units here, 1 unit here, all across to maybe 10, 15, 20 different fulfillment centers, because they have like 150 plus in the US. And they put the inventory there. So that when you get a sale, if somebody buys the product from wherever in Florida and they have inventory in Mississippi, it's not that far to get it there, right? But if it was farther, it would be impossible, right? So Amazon's always going to incentivize FBA so they can honor their shipping, so they can make more money, right? Because it shows the integrity of the customer. Now, last but not least, also it's a trustability thing. The inventory is in the hands of Amazon's warehouses. These warehouses are up to code. They have inspection. They have customers or their employees working 24/7. They know this inventory can be trusted. It's at the good room temperature. If it's a beauty product or a grocery product, they know how to handle every single product that comes into the warehouse. I'm sure they saw everything under the sun. Now, if it was in my house or my apartment or, so on, right, in a storage facility, how can they verify that the trustability of the product, that it's going to be insured, that it's intact, that it's, not melted or not, crumbling apart or dangerous because now it's overheated, right? So they just know, and there's a lot more comfortability with Amazon that their integrity is going to be held up by them themselves having the product, because that's what they're there for. They're there for shipping, storage, treatment of the product to make sure it's going to arrive to the customer safely, and they feel more comfortable doing that rather than if it was at jayslarosa's house, right? Hope that makes sense, right? So, and if it doesn't, just put it in the comments. Of course, I'm going to answer the comments, right? Now, let's talk about the business models. So we know what Amazon FBA is. We know how it works. We know the FBA versus FBM. Now, let's look at some business models to actually start selling on Amazon, right? Because there's actually a few of them, right? A few of them that are big. First is private label. Second is wholesale. And third is online arbitrage. Chances are you might have heard what either one or two of those are, but we're going to dive into all three. Don't worry. First, private label. Private label is essentially creating a brand. Going to Alibaba, going to a manufacturer, right? Alibaba's a big one. Going to manufacturer and say, hey, this product looks good, and I want to create a brand, make a trademark, jayslarosa's plushies, and take my logo, buy the inventory, put my logo on the inventory, make a listing on Amazon. So there's no existing marketing. Nobody knows what the product is. It's just basically creating a new product, a new brand, and listing my inventory on the marketplace and saying, I think my product fits the market. I think it's going to do well. I think that it's going to compete very well according to the other products in the category or the brand or so on. So I'm going to list my product on Amazon, and I'm just basically going to put my trademark on it, my brand on it, you name it. Okay. So that's what private label is. It's difficult now. It's a hard business model to start, and it's not beginner friendly because you have to actually market the product. Remember, Amazon does all of the marketing for you. Their algorithm, their search algorithm, it's all right there, right? Customers can see what are the top products. Many times they're going onto Amazon because you're going to buy a product that you already know that does well, CeraVe, whatever it is that you need, you're going to Amazon to buy for it. But when you're creating your own product, your own brand, you don't know what the market is. Are they going to like it? Are they not going to like it? Is it good? Is it not good? You don't know, right? You don't know. So private label is basically rolling the dice. You're gambling, and you're investing in your own marketing, your own, search terms. You're creating the title of the product. You're doing the imaging. You're working with the supplier to make sure it's good. Maybe you market on different, marketplaces, or you have your own website, and you're an influencer, so you have social media. But basically, you're just trying to generate traction for a product. It's the same way of creating any product, but just launching it on a different marketplace, right? Or just creating your own website for it. But with private label, you're specifically launching the product on Amazon because there's some extended and past search volume, right? Because people are searching in to buy products on Amazon every single day. So that there's an opportunity to buy products with your products to sell on Amazon higher than if you just went to your own website, because you have to actually draw traffic to your website. But with private label, there's a chance if somebody looks up, hey, microphones, and if I just created this microphone brand right here, then there's a chance my microphone on my listing might pop up and maybe I get a sale, right? Just a little bit more of a gamble. People do really well with this. It's an exciting thing to do, to create a brand and create a product and create multiple products off of the brand, but it's just difficult because there's no marketing, there's no search volume, there's no volume the data is not there, right? If that makes sense. The data is not there for the product, okay? So that's private label. It's a bit difficult, and it's a bit of a business model that people grow their business into. Now, I'm going to jump around a bit because it's more effective. We're going to talk about online arbitrage. Chances are you've probably heard of it. If not, totally fine. Online arbitrage is buying products from well-known retailers or even smaller retailers, right? Like Target, like Walmart, Walgreens, or if you get smaller ones, it's even better. And buying the product at a price, let's say $20, because they're listing it at $20, or maybe you have a relationship with that supplier, that retailer, I should call it, and you're selling it on Amazon for a higher price, right? It's the basis of going all the way back to the first business model that's ever invented. Buying low, selling high. You're just arbitraging the price of the markets, right? You have a chance to buy it here at 20 and sell it here on Amazon for 40. And great, maybe you make $6 or $7 profit after fees. You do that 100 times a month, you make $600 a month. You did it across 4 or 5 products, you do $3,000, $4,000 a month, right? So you can see how that the umbrella and the net continues to cast wider and wider as you do it at scale. But it's very simple online arbitrage, and it's the easiest entry into Amazon because you can start day one with no experience. The data's there, the information's there, you're buying products that probably you use or you already know, and you're selling that on Amazon that people want to buy and that they already like and trust and know, right? So basically, you're just being the middleman of buying it at a lower price, sending your inventory into Amazon, and just shipping it off to the customer or they're shipping it off to the customer when you get an order, right? So online arbitrage is just working with retailers, right? So you're not buying in bulk. Maybe if you have a lucky chance, you can buy in bulk, but you're not buying in bulk. You're just buying 10 units, 20 units, 30 units at a time, test buying, accumulating some inventory, and then just selling it on the marketplace at a higher price, right? So you're just being the middleman. Now, you might be asking, does this even work? Why would somebody buy something for $40 on Amazon if I could buy it at $20 at jayslarosa.com, right? Well, here's the thing. Not only do people pay for the speed and trustability of Amazon, right? Because 1-day Prime shipping, free shipping if you have Amazon Prime, and you know that you're buying from Amazon, so you're trusted because you can get a refund or return whenever you want. You won't be scammed or anything. But also, many people just don't even know that another better price exists. People are going to shop on Amazon. A lot of people go to shop for their products that they like creams or moisturizers or sports equipment or home improvement equipment, and they're going directly to Amazon. Because they always buy the product from Amazon because they like Amazon. They like how fast it comes. They like how they can trust it. They like the customer service, the customer support, everything about it, right? So they don't care that if the product is listed at Walmart for $30 and they're buying on Amazon for $38. Most people are just going to work with the marketplace because it's that big. It's a giant. Now, if you look at even smaller retailers, they really don't care about that retailer because maybe it's going to be good. Maybe it's going to arrive on time. Maybe it's going to be not right, or the product's going to be damaged or whatever it may be, but they can trust Amazon, okay? So everybody just buys on Amazon and they don't even know it even exists on other marketplaces. And that's where we come in as sellers. We're just taking advantage of arbitraging the price of basically doing the sourcing, finding a better price somewhere on the marketplace, and selling it on Amazon at a higher price. It's kind of simple. It actually is very simple, and you're going to learn it across the course of this video, where if you just study the principles, how to do it, how it looks like, what the source sites look like, the suppliers, and so on, it's going to be a lot of success, and you're going to see how many of us sellers have been doing it for years now, okay? Like I said, 60% of the sellers are third party. You're going to see, okay, this makes a ton of sense now, right? So that's the broad basis of online arbitrage, and as always, ask questions in the comment if you have any. Now, we have to talk about wholesale, which is a very, very exciting business model, right? Wholesale is essentially the same thing as online arbitrage, but you're buying in bulk, you're buying at discounts, and you're working directly with wholesalers, distributors, manufacturers, okay? Instead of working with Walgreens or Walmart, a retailer, you're going even closer to the source of the product, right? Which makes the price of the product become cheaper. And the fact that you're buying in bulk, the wholesaler and the distributor can sell it to you at a cheaper price, right? So if you look at the totem pole and how it looks when you're looking to buy an item, right? As a retailer, this is what it looks like. You start with the manufacturer, right? Here, let's start down here, right? You start with the manufacturer who produces and creates the product. The manufacturer then sells it here to a distributor or wholesaler, typically a distributor if it's a bigger company, right? And they sell it at a price. Let's say they created the product and it cost them $4. Now they're going to sell it for $8, and the distributor then distributes the product to all of the retailers in the world. Walmart, Walgreens, Target, so on, right? It distributes the product in every single of their warehouses and so on. They're the supplier of the product. Now, Walmart and Target don't go directly to the manufacturer for the most part, unless it's a smaller brand, because they just can't buy enough quantity and products to sell it in their marketplaces, right? So they have to go to a distributor, because a distributor sells to many different platforms, right? They sell to Walmart, Walgreens, jayslarosa, John Joe, right? They sell to everybody, right? All these little small mom and pop companies and so on. So the fact that there's a distributor here, the retailer, the next step of the totem pole up here is the retailer buys from the distributor, all right? So we're at manufacturer, distributor, retailer, customer, okay? The customer is the end consumer who buys the product and says thank you. So again, let's say, for example, they cost them $4 to make, they sell it to the distributor for $8, and the distributor sells it to the retailer for $12, and the retailer sells it to the customer for $22. And there you go. A $4 product turns into a $22 product because the customer has to buy it, right? So with wholesale, we're buying right here. We're skipping the retailer. We're obviously not the customer because we're looking to resell these products. And we're going right in the middle sweet spot and saying, hey, we want to work with these distributors and become the retailer. Because in a sense, the retailer would be selling us the product at, whatever, let's say 14, and we're hoping that it sells on Amazon for 27 or 28. But instead, we want to buy from the distributor the same price that the retailer is buying from. Because at the end of the day, selling on Amazon FBA, we are an online retailer. Just because we don't have a website or a storefront doing OA, right? As you grow the business, you have your own website and so on. But we're an online retailer. jayslarosa.com, this is my store, right? Just because I have the ability to sell it on Amazon, Walmart, eBay, my own website, it doesn't matter. I'm still an online retailer. I don't hold stock, I don't hold inventory, but I'm still a retailer selling products to consumers, right? So we're looking to become that retailer for distributors, for wholesalers. And that's the sweet spot, is gaining relationships, opening up relationships, basically, creating a connection with these suppliers, then sell the products to Amazon customers and buy it cheaper than if you were to buy it at retailers, right? Now, you can also go directly to the manufacturer. This is easier for smaller brands because maybe they do it in-house or maybe they're a smaller company. But when you do this for a big brand like CeraVe or Aloe or a really, really big company, it's impossible to go directly to the manufacturer unless you are a massive, massive business, right? Because you have to convince the manufacturer that you're going to buy and spend X amount of dollars every single month, every single year, hit all of their quotas to sell the products. And the fact that we only sell the product on Amazon and maybe a few other marketplaces, we can't for sure guarantee that we can sell all of these products. We're going to be sitting on a lot of inventory, right? So that's basically the basis with wholesale. It's just doing online arbitrage at a bigger scale. So now you know the 3 different business models of Amazon FBA. It's up to you what you want to choose. I obviously recommend starting with online arbitrage, going to wholesale, migrating and creating a brand and private label in the end, and also still doing the other business models. That's exactly what I did. I haven't created a private label brand just yet, but I have done online arbitrage, I've done wholesale, and they've been very, very successful for me, okay? So now, here we go. What is OA? Have a typo, all right? And why OA, okay? Why OA, actually? OA, like I mentioned, is beginner friendly. Me, you, John Doe, Jack, Millie, whoever can start this business whenever, okay? You can start it today, you can start it tomorrow, you open up a seller account, you start sourcing, you go, right? OA, there's no requirements to have a tax permit, to be a professional business, to have a warehouse, to have anything along those sorts. You can start it right now. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do for a living, right? You can start OA, online arbitrage, day one, because you're buying from retailers. Typically, they don't question you of why you're buying, or that way you'd have to get around the buying process. But it's so beginner friendly. As you grow the business, you see the proof of concept. You see, okay, this works. Then you start to actually get into wholesale, start buying in bulk, working with suppliers, working with brands, and just grow the business. But in the beginning, why not go out there, scrape, source some products, arbitrage the price difference, make $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. Okay, I scaled my online arbitrage business to $50,000 a month in sales before I even looked at wholesale, right? And you can scale to 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. I know people doing it to 400,000, okay? It's 100% possible. But which means that there's no point to immediately turn a blind eye to not doing OA and not starting with OA and just wanting to jump right to wholesale, right? Migrate into that, grow the business, but it's so beginner friendly. It's really, really important to start with, and you're going to find it more success rather than just investing in money and risking it, especially because the data is there. It's on proven brands, okay? Now, what's needed to start? This is the elephant in the room. How much money do I need? And then we'll talk about mindset and time and so on, right? So this is the only answer, the only right answer, and it's the truth. You get what you put in. if you want to start the business model with $200, it's a whole hell of a lot harder to make sales and to grow the business than if you started with $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, okay? Because your money makes you money. You're putting your money into inventory. If I'm buying $200 worth of inventory and I want to make a 30% ROI, that's around $66 in profit that I'll get back. Now, of course, you have to ship the product to Amazon, get the sales, put it into your bank account, and then rebuy the products. It just creates lag time, right? Because it's a constant cash flow of money going in and out to buy the product. If you were to start with $2,000, great. Now you can invest $2,000, get 30% ROI, and make $650, okay? Great. So the more money you start with, the better. I started with $200, like I told you guys. I got lucky in the beginning. Maybe it wasn't luck, maybe because I worked really hard in sourcing and I found these products and I had success and I made $3,000 or $4,000. But the more money you start with, the more comfortable you'll be in and basically having shots at the dartboard, okay? You want to have a lot of shots at the dartboard and test by 3 to 4 products and then expand and then test out with more products and grow the business and get 30% ROI, 40% ROI, grow the money over and over and keep it going, right? That's what you ideally want. But you also need to know what you're doing when you're buying this inventory. Because if let's say somebody who was an expert in Amazon FBA day one, right? Let's say if I started day one without any prior selling history on my account and I just started with a brand new account and I started with $1,000. Well, obviously I'm going to have a lot more success with somebody who started with $4,000 or $5,000 because I know what I'm buying. Chances are what I buy is going to roll over into profit and ROI, and I'm going to grow my business a lot faster than the person who has $5,000 who will probably sink because they don't know what they're doing, which is why it's important to watch videos like this, get to people like who know the business and talk with them, right? So it's all what you want to put into it, how fast you want to grow, and so on. You can start with anything. I don't recommend starting with $200 or less than $500 because, again, you have to buy the Amazon professional selling account, which is $40 a month, which, in hindsight, it becomes nothing. But it's good to buy some softwares to understand how to read the data. And then you want to put your money in inventory, right? So you don't want to start with too low and then you're kind of just paying softwares and don't really have much money to put in inventory for the first few months or first month because you won't find success. But it's better to have some money kind of in the bank. Even $1,000 is good to just get going, get the proof of concept, and then say, okay, let me invest more. Let me make this an actual business. That's exactly what I did, guys, right? Obviously, I got lucky, but I continued to compound my money, invest everything I had in there to grow a really, really big pool of money. Because then once you have $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, it sounds like a lot, but that's money is getting put into your inventory and you're reinvesting back into your business to continue to grow it, okay? So capital, it's what you get. What you want to get out of it is what you put into it, okay? Mindset. Remember what I told you guys. I started Amazon FBA and all I wanted to do was make $1,500 a month, which is not even livable in the US because I wanted to live in Italy, Europe, travel the world, okay? You have to have a mindset of what you want to get out of this. Do you want to grow this business into a 7, 8, 9, who knows, figure business, make a real company out of this and have many, many employees and go on to have great things? Or do you just want to create an income, a side income? Do you have a job? Do you love your job? Or do you have another business that you love and you just want to bring in some cash flow and start a project on the side, right? That's completely fine. But you have to turn your mindset that you are a business owner, you are an entrepreneur, and you have to, you want to get what you want to get out of it, right? Do you want to put all this time into it? Do you want to put less time into it? So on. So you have to have your mindset, conform it, understand it, what you want to get out of it, and that's going to in turn give you a lot of success. But it's important to get that set straight day one before you even buy a product or invest $1 into Amazon FBA, okay? Then, time. Yes, I'm at the point where I'm working 1 hour a day. I can work 2 hours a week if I wanted to. I could work 200 hours a week, right? It's impossible, 20 hours a week, right? But in the beginning, you got to invest your time in learning how to source products and learning some preliminary information about the business because it's important. It's important to understand what you're doing, what you're getting yourself into, what you're working on, sourcing products, getting into the rabbit hole, finding good products. And in the future, guys, you can delegate all this. You can have an employee. You'll have a prep center, right? Which we're going to try to do day one. But you'll have employees for sourcing. You'll have an account manager. You'll have a prep center. and you'll scale it really big. And those employees, by the way, will be overseas, so it's lower cost and it's effective to do it as a business, right? But in the early days, invest your time into it, right? And if you don't want to, if you want to invest 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week, it's totally fine. You're just going to grow slower, right? Like anything in life, right? You get what you put in. So if you want to invest 40 hours a week, you're going to learn a whole heck of a lot faster than the person who invests 40 hours a year, right? They're going to learn a lot slower than you because they're just not getting as much information and data as you are. So the fact that you're already watching this 3-hour long video, you have the mindset that you want to invest some time. So it's a good thing. Just invest the time, and in the end, you can travel, delegate, automate, and systemize all these cool things about the business where you're not working. There's so many things in the business that I don't do or keep tabs on nowadays because I just have team members to focus on it. And that allows me to spend the entire day in Rome or the entire day in Florence and just exploring Italy or exploring Thailand or South Africa or Cape Town, like where you can just go about and just do your day, right? And have a good time where you're not working on your business 24/7. And you will get there. Just invest your time in the early days. All right. Now, part number 2. Hope you guys are feeling refreshed, right? So this is Product Research Masterclass. This is one of the most important parts of this entire video. Watch this back for the next 5, 6, 7 times over the course of this video, because if you master this, you master Amazon FBA. Take it from me, somebody who's been sourcing like a master for 3+ years. I've trained 5+ sourcing team members. So please, this is critical to watch and to master this. And you can carry this over into other e-commerce spaces as well. Okay. So what makes a great product? That's it, guys. That's what we want to buy. That's what we want to sell. We need to have a great product. That's what everybody in this world is sourcing for and searching for when selling on Amazon, Walmart, TikTok, eBay, drop shipping, you name it, right? It's all about the great product, right? So let's evaluate it. And of course, we'll dive into it much more when we actually look at some listings. But just off of face value, you want to get a product that has high demand. I know, common sense, stable competition, which means sellers not going too high, too low over the course of the period of time. You also want to have sellers who are within our selling range, meaning haven't been doing it for 10 years or 20 years, because in that case, that's just ridiculous and there's no chance for us to get sales if they're very big on this marketplace. But don't worry, we'll dive into that. Then you want to look at pricing. $20 to $50 is a good range. You also want to make sure that's consistent, because if it's bouncing from 20 to 50 over the course of the past 6 months, there's no way we would make any money with that, because we're just guessing. We're probably buying the product for 20 if we're selling it at 40. So we're just guessing in that product price jumping, okay? So you want to have consistency in that sale price. I like this price range just because I know that I'm going to make a good profit per dollar selling a $20 product or a $50 product, which means $4 to $5 profit in my pocket after fees and so on. So if we get too low, like 10 or 12, the margin for error becomes very little, and you have to sell a lot of those units. We're talking like 1,000, 2,000 plus a month to make a really good stable income with those products. So I like those $20 to $50 products because we know we can make a good profit per dollar and not have to sell like 10 million of them, right, over the course of our time selling on that listing, okay? Then you want to have stable volume, okay? This means stable volume, no peeking to the next stuff, but stable volume means the volume and the amount of sales that listing gets per month over the course of 12 months, 6 months, 9 months, 15 months is stable. Like, it's not bouncing to 10,000 sales per month and then going down to 50 sales per month, because that shows that's a seasonal product. That's not evergreen, right? That's a seasonal product. We want to keep a good base at 200, 300, 400, and don't worry, we'll dive all into it on what you exactly want to look for. But as long as it's stable and it's consistent, I'll take that over inconsistency, because then we'll be guessing, right? We won't know for sure. We'll have good data, good insights, seeing our charts, our Keepa charts, our SellerAmp to say, okay, I feel confident that I'll sell this product at 200 times a month in December, but I don't know for sure, right? So we don't want to have unbelievable, crazy volume charts where we're like reading it and saying, oh, what even is this, right? We want to see something that's stable, has consistent sales per month. We know every day of the week, every month of the week, month of the year, somebody's coming to buy that product. some way, somehow, and they like the product and so on. So we want to have stability, knowing that when we put inventory in, it will sell through, okay? So let's talk about the two major tools here with Amazon FBA. And these two are non-negotiables. And I tell this to everybody who wants to get into Amazon FBA. Keepa and SellerAmp. Keepa is a product sourcing and a product information software. We're going to dive entirely into it. But for the sake of this, Keepa will give you everything that you need to know with Amazon FBA. It's $20 a month and it's worth $200 a month, okay? I'd be paying $500 a month if it was that price point, okay? Because Keepa gives you the data over the past 4, 5, 10, 15 years of price, sellers, and volume. They have so many different tools, right? And this is not a Keepa sponsorship video. This is just literally the reality. They have so many tools with inside Keepa to see how much sales you're expected to get, what the expected price point you'll sell it at, when it was selling in the past, how much it was selling, everything you could ever even imagine right now, sitting where you are on what you need. It's all in Keepa. You don't even need SellerAmp as much as you need Keepa because it just gives you all the information right in front of you. I can sit here without looking at an Amazon listing ever about what the product actually is and just go right into the Keepa chart, and I could say buy or sell within 3 minutes, maybe even 30 seconds on every single Keepa chart. So this software and mastering and getting a degree, which I have a video on if you want to go back and look at it, but getting a degree in this software will take you to the next level with Amazon because so much success is in this software and understanding how it works, what it means, what the data means, so on, okay? And we'll dive into it. I'll go on the interface and what it actually looks like, but let's actually just do that right exactly now. So this is what the interface looks like. This is going to be kind of confusing for you guys because there's only a little bit about what you need here on the Keepa. And actually, the Keepa is a Chrome extension, so it pops up on every single Amazon listing that you open once you're subscribed and you have an account and such. There's a free version as well, but the paid version is just much more extensive and just gives you all the data. But so you'll see it on every Amazon listing. Like 1% of the time, you actually have to use this software or website. You don't have to use the website, but this is what it looks like. You know, deals, track, apps, data, information, search, and so on. So whenever you find a listing or a product that you like, you could just go here in the search bar and actually just go and search for that product, right? Now, also in the data, it's the same thing. We'll dive into this later, and then there's other videos that I have of breakdowns of this, but you can actually find products to sell all through Keepa too. So not only does it give you the profit or the numbers and all the data, it actually allows you to also source products. So it's like a 2-in-1. It's unbelievable, right? But this is a broad view of the Keepa, and don't worry about this too much. It's just kind of refreshing, but we're going to go into it on actual Amazon listings, what the Keepa looks like. But if we open up all of these listings, Keepa gives you all the data, okay? So let's dive right back into here to the actual course content of things. Now, SellerAmp, okay? SellerAmp is a profit calculating tool. How much money are we actually making when we're selling these products? But also, it's a sourcing tool, okay? So you can actually find products to sell all from SellerAmp, all right? Which we're going to dive into. Moving myself here for a sec. But we're going to dive into that of how to actually find profitable products, because that's the elephant in the room, right? Outside of how much money do you have to invest, is how do I actually find products to sell and put in my storefront? Well, SellerAmp does 99% of that work for you, and just that tactic alone could take you to 50, 100K, 200K forever a month, okay? You don't have to worry about figuring out other tactics, other methods. Even though I'm going to show you another one in this video, bonus content, you just have to stick with this one sourcing tactic, and it's right in front of you, and it's called stealing like an artist. That's a bit of a hint if you saw my prior videos, okay? So SellerAmp gives you profit calculating tool, and it's a sourcing tool. So you can actually source products and see how much money you're making at the same exact time. It's so worth it. And you're going to see as we go through it, like what the heck it actually means. But now what I want to do here, I want to dive into these charts. Keepa chart, the software, and the SellerAmp software to explain exactly what they are, all right? And then from there, we'll go into some sourcing to actually start finding some products. And who knows, we might actually find some products to sell to make your first dollars on, all right? But let's dive here, moving myself here to the left. First thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the SellerAmp. This is a software. It's also $20 a month. It will tell you if you're gated or ungated, which I'll talk about. Don't worry. It will tell you the price of the product. It'll tell you what you have to buy the product at to make it profitable. It will talk about what other sellers are selling this product, the ROI, the profit, the expected profit, everything you'll need to know, right? So let's dive into it here. It's on the right side of the screen here. So if you go here, it's right here on the right side of the screen where my cursor is, okay? And where it says yes, and it says SellerAmp SAS, okay? There at the top. Now, top to bottom, SellerAmp starts with the title of the product, so you know what it is. Under it, it gives you the ASIN. Let's just talk about this now. The ASIN is a 9 or 10 digit, I believe, unique identifier for every single listing on Amazon. All right. So every single listing on Amazon has a ASIN number. And this way, Amazon can identify each listing independently, right? So if they were to say, there might be 4, let's say of this pen, right? There might be 4 different listings that sell this pen. Maybe it's pack of 2, pack of 4, pack of 8, pack of 1. But how do I know if it's a pack of 2 listing or a pack of 4? Well, it has a different ASIN number. Every single listing on Amazon has a different ASIN number. So that way, when you actually become a seller and you start going with seller support, which is the customer service for us sellers, and tell them, hey, I have a question about this ASIN number. Well, you just copy the ASIN and send it to them. Every single listing has a different one, okay? Even if it's the same exact product, it has a different ASIN number, all right? So that's important to know as well. And we can find that in many different places. And you don't even need the software for that, but that's important when you become a seller because that's how you list products, analyze products, and so on, okay? Now, starting at the top, this will tell you if you're gated or ungated, which I'll go over, but this is where you find it. I'll go over this later in the video, but this is where you find it. It either says yes or no. And if you don't have an Amazon account yet, it'll say, log in to see. Next, the BSR, which we'll talk about, but this is essentially the volume of sales, okay? The lower the better. Let's just take it like that. The lower the better because every single product has its own BSR and its own category, but the lower, the better that it has, okay? Then it'll say the estimated sales per month, 50, 100, 200, 500. For this case, it says 50. The higher the better for that. Then it'll say the max cost. So on the back end of SellerAmp, there's very little things to do, right? It's really just the software is kind of there. But you can set different preferences and settings where you say, oh, I expect, a box fee of $1 or $2. But you set up your SellerAmp on the back end, which you don't really have to do. It's kind of just for extra protection. But this max cost will tell you, if you want to sell this product at $85.26, you can't buy it more than $50.68 because why? Because you won't meet your 30% ROI criteria and you won't meet your profit per dollar criteria, okay? Because I had those set where I want to make 30% ROI and I want to make $5 profit per dollar, right? And if it's not one of those, this will pop up as red. All right, the profit per dollar will come up as red and the ROI will come up as red. So that way I know right away, okay, this pricing is going to work or it's not going to work, okay? So I'll tell you the max cost there. Then below it, it's going to say the sale price. So you can input what you expect to sell the product at. Typically, you just want to put the buy box cost, which I'll get into, don't worry, which is the price of what it's selling at now. And then you want to put in your expected cost of what you're buying it there. Now, most cases you will find the listing first and then the supplier. So you have to go and find the supplier and then put the cost in because you don't know what the cost is until you actually go on the supplier's website or you ask the distributor or whoever it may be. But then when you input the cost, you get all the data right there for you. You get the profit, the expected profit per dollar. You get the profit percentage, ROI, and so on, okay? And you get the break-even point, which the break-even point is don't sell this product at this price, or once you hit this price of selling this product, you're break even, meaning you're not making any money. And you're probably losing money because you spent money on shipping the product in and buying material and such, right? Or if you're using a prep center, you had a cost to prep the product and ship it into Amazon. So that's the break even point. Now, most of this stuff, all this data, numbers, charts you're going to see here, don't even worry about it. Let's go right down here to the sellers, okay? You also get to keep a chart, which is like a sneak peek at it. But you go down here where it says profit calculator. You're going to see more of what I talked about. $40 of the cost price, $85 of the sale price. Here I can toggle between expected with FBM versus FBA. For this matter, we're doing this remote. Remember, we just want to stick with FBA. But You can toggle it. You can see how numbers change there. Now, then you go into the profit, right? And there you can actually even see, like if you go into total fees, you can see the fees, but you can see the profit kind of all in front of you. So it shows you it twice, right? You see the profit, the ROI, etc. Now, total fees is going to show you all of the fees you have to pay for Amazon. Now, this is already baked into your profit and your ROI when you kind of input your numbers, because SellerAmp like automatically calculates it. Because remember, guys, every single product is going to have a different fulfilled by Amazon fee. The bigger ones are going to be more expensive because Amazon has to pay for heavy lifting and shipping. And the smaller ones are going to be cheaper. So SellerAmp automatically calculates that. You don't have to go list the product and go see what the fees are and go do some deep dive on your Seller Central. Just go here in SellerAmp. They tell you right away, $4.55 for an FBA fee. Now, referral fee is 15% of the entire sale price. You can see here, if you zoom in here, it says tiered referral fee, okay? So it's 15% of the entire sale price that they're going to get no matter what, right? So you have to bake in your numbers outside of that. Now, down here, outside of the fulfillment fee and the referral fee, remember, fulfillment fee changes. Typically, it's between 4 and it can go up to 20, but like 4, 6, 7, 8, right? Depending on how big the product is. And then referral fee is just 15% of the sale price, right? Then down here are miscellaneous fees. We won't go into it too much that I have set on my back end. I put a prep fee because I pay my prep center 75 cents per product. So I put that in there. Then I put like, miscellaneous fee, which is just any other extra cost that might be associated. And then you have your inbound shipping fee, what I expect to pay per unit that I ship to Amazon's fulfillment center. So every unit that I ship to Amazon's fulfillment center, I expect to pay 58 cents. Pretty cheap, right? Because Amazon, which I'll show you too at the end, has a partnered carrier. And, they have UPS, they have FedEx, they have other carriers like that. But basically, the price to ship inventory through these partnered carriers is like, a fifth of the price if you went to UPS yourself and dropped off the product, right? So if something that would cost $50 to ship to Amazon because it's 50 pounds, it actually only costs $10 with their partnered carrier. So it's very, very good and useful to work with their partnered carrier. And thank gosh they do that for us sellers. So don't worry about that too if you were worrying about that, right? Now there's kind of the broad rundown on the fees and the interface of SellerAmp. Now, very, very, very important. And will be what we're going to touch into when we call it to reverse sourcing. Remember I talked about sourcing and using sourcing through SellerAmp, copycatting and stealing like an artist. This down here, the offers tab, that's what Amazon basically calls new sellers on the listing. Not new sellers, just any seller. That's where you'll see all of the sellers on this listing, right? We can see all the sellers, who's selling the product, how much stock they have, what price they're selling it at, and so on, right? So here there's 49 sellers because it says here at the offers tab, 49, and it shows me 16 are FBA and 33 are FBM. Okay, so we have just so much insight just off of the software of who's selling this product, what price they're selling it at, and so on. Now, if you just run your cursor down, you can see the different names of the sellers. Like guys, if you think I was, not being serious before, but look at all these different third-party sellers just on this listing alone, probably making a lot of money. Maximus Experience, MT Enterprise, DH Sales LLC, EB World, the Bluestone Market, Gulfside 23. Now the name doesn't matter. You can choose any name what you want to become a seller. Starship Distribution, Book Vault Co., Tessero Shop, just tons and tons of different third-party sellers who don't have a warehouse, who don't have a big business and 100 million employees. They're just third-party sellers reselling products at a profitable price. Whether they're doing it online arbitrage or they're doing it wholesale, they're making money by just buying products at $40, $50, selling it here at 82 for their case, 85, 87, and so on. Now, if you go over the FBA seller, obviously it either highlights it to FBM or FBA because that tells you if they're FBA or FBM. So that gives you insight there as well. But you can open up and say load more, and we can see even more sellers at different price points. LFK Clothes and Goods, ADF Happy Store, The Complete Corner, Avidity International LLC, all third-party sellers everywhere over this listing, right? And when we dive into it, we'll go into it later of how to reverse source and copycat, but this is literally what you're going to use for your only sourcing method until you get to 5, 10, 15K a month. And then you can open it up and expand it. And of course, by then I'll have more and more videos for you guys to watch and utilize and resources and tools to access, right? But SellerAmp also gives you the sellers, okay? So everything's right there on SellerAmp. That's the data, calculating profit, and using sellers to reverse source, which we'll dive into. Now, remember guys, that pops up right in front of your Amazon listing, right? As soon as you pull up your Amazon listing here, like this pops up automatically for me. If you want to just pop it up manually, just go in here and go down here to your SellerAmp and just click on it, right? And then it just pops up. And you can put it on the left side if you want, whatever you prefer, all right? So the rest of this, don't matter. We'll dive into an Amazon listing later on when we're sourcing a product more and more. But let's go down here. You scroll down. When you subscribe to SellerAmp, it pops up on the right. When you subscribe to Keepa, it's going to pop right here, right under the picture, okay? You have the title and you have the pictures, right? And under it, here comes the Keepa chart. Like I said, if you get a degree, if you get a college degree, and this chart right here, you will find success no matter what on Amazon because you will make every right decision and you will understand how to make a proper decision, okay? So this is what the Keepa chart looks like, right? Now, don't all right, the Keepa chart. Let me move myself here for a second. So don't worry, we'll talk about buy box and pricing and sales and so on in 1 second. But first, let's dive into the Keepa chart. Like I said, getting a degree in this, you'll be on your way to find a lot of success with Amazon. Now, guys, don't worry about what you're seeing here. I know it looks like a lot of charts and numbers and lines and pink and purple and rainbows, whatever, but it's very, very simple. This is just because this is the way I have mine set up. But I'll take this off to make it even more easier. So remember it like this. It's very simple. The top bar is price, okay? The middle bar is sales volume. How many sales does it get? How well does it do? And the third one is sellers. Write that down. Price, sales volume, sellers. Now let's dive into it, right? And there's many more things you can do with this Keepa chart, which we'll dive into. Don't worry. But first, let's focus in on this. So we have price. Now, when I run my cursor from right to left, you're going to see here it pops up and says buy box. It gives me a seller and it shows me he has 0 reviews. Now, when I run my cursor from right to left, it's going to show me the pricing changing. And what it's going to show me is every time that price changes and every time that seller changes to a new seller, that's going to show what price that at that moment in time the product and listing was getting sales at, okay? So we can see already just off of face value, just off of looking at it, it's very consistent, right? The chart's pretty consistent. It's going to go up a bit, but for the most part, it's pretty steady. It's comfortable. It's a good listing in the pricing that it sells at. I know it dips down here, but whatever, right? So as I run my cursor from right to left, watch what happens. And we'll do it twice and then we'll talk about it. There's the first time. Here comes the second time. Do you see all the sellers consistently changing at different pricing, right? Look, new seller, new seller, new seller, new seller. And the pricing changing, $81.99, $82.99, $83.64, right? You see how it's changing, 85, 87, 76. So that means whenever it changes to a new seller and to a new price, that is the seller who was winning buy box at that price, and it's them themselves winning the buy box. Winning buy box means getting sales. Write that down. Write on a piece of paper, winning buy box equals getting sales, okay? And the Keepa chart shows us all of that, right? So we can see here at this moment, Saturday, July 19th, if you go all the way down the line, it shows it like right here, if you see on my screen, July 19th at 4:35 a.m. or p.m., I'm not sure, I think a.m. This seller, Tessero Shop, 0 reviews, meaning he just started. He could be you in 1 week, or this could be you in 1 week. Had the buy box at $87.76. But if I run my cursor just a little bit to the left, just a little bit, there you go. New seller winning the buy box at $82.99. Okay, named Trusted Tech, 5,574 reviews. A bigger seller has a really good review. That 100% just shows that he's a 100% 5 out of 5 star rating seller, which is good for him, right? So as you can run your cursor from right to left, day in and day out on these Keepa charts, you can also just see it kind of off of face value to see what the pricing that it's selling at. But you see the constant changing in price and sellers on these listings, okay? constantly, guys, right? We have a new seller every day and every hour of the day, new seller, new ratings and new price they're selling these products at, which is actually a great sign. Because if we see new sellers selling products, that means there's an opportunity for many people to get sales in this listing, not just one, right? So this top chart, again, is going to show you price. And at every time of the day that the price, that the buy box was getting won, meaning where people were getting sales and who was winning the sales and, so on. You can do this data all the way back from 3 months, 1 year, all time, which is over 2,500 days, okay? Which is such a long time, right? We're looking at 7-8 years. Now, we just want to focus on the 3 month because that's just a recent chart, right? Now, before I talk about volume and sellers, let's talk about buy box, right? Because you might have seen this online or might be asking yourself, well, how do they actually buy my products instead of buying Jay's products? If we're both in the listing, what makes them buy my products, right? Because they're not going to go on your storefront or your name and say, oh, this is great. This is a cool name. Let me buy from him. They think they're buying from Amazon, right? Which they are. We're just online distributors for Amazon. So what decides that is Amazon's algorithm called the buy box. The buy box is this 5 or 6 inch square or rectangle here that pops up here. And this buy box, which is the button where you hit buy now to actually buy the product, it rotates among sellers. One day it might be so-and-so, one day it might be another person, and it continues to rotate to new sellers, right? Every day, every hour, every second of the day. That way, every seller on the listing can get sales. If there's only one seller, the buy box is going to rotate amongst one seller, okay? Now, the question is, how does it rotate? Because, of course, it's not going to go from $70 to a seller who's at $90 because it's too drastic and it's going to confuse customers and it's just not right for the marketplace. So, buy box is determined by pricing and size of seller or reviews, right? So if you're consistent pricing, obviously here the seller's at 87. If I'm at 86.65 or 87.05, I have a chance to win buy box. Now, if I'm a seller who has 10 reviews and there's a seller versus somebody who has 1 million reviews, who do you think Amazon's going to trust? They're going to trust the seller with 1 million reviews. Why? Because that seller's been doing this for quite a while. And again, Amazon always wants to keep the integrity of the marketplace, which means they want to make sure that the trust is there between them and the seller, because that's all they got, right? They're the distributor, they're the middleman platform. So if there's a seller who has 1 million reviews, chances are he's been doing this for quite a while and he's going to ensure good quality customer care for the product. The product's going to be authentic. It's going to be, not damaged when it gets to Amazon fulfillment center. And, it's taken care of. They're buying from a good supplier and so on, right? So they trust that. Now, if that seller with 10 reviews was selling for 10 years on this listing, then obviously they'll favor that seller who has been selling for 10 years because it's all about trustability and integrity of the marketplace, okay? So this buy box constantly rotates amongst sellers, different sellers every day, every hour of the day. And also, if there's 5 sellers and I have inventory in Connecticut and someone else has inventory in California and I'm the only person with inventory on East Coast, well, I'm going to win buy box majority on East Coast because they have to have prime shipping. Even if it's a $2 difference, they're going to present the customer the price of a $2 difference of my listing at $89 rather than somebody in California $87, because that's just good quality service from customer, and that's how they've literally developed and ran their business since the start of everything that they've done. So you're going to have to learn buy box and get familiar with it. It's very simple, and obviously you're going to go off of keep a chart and seeing how the buy box rotates and the price changes to different prices. But winning buy box is key and a competitive advantage for Amazon sellers to get more sales, right? To double your sales every month or triple it or so on, right? You can also see the stock quantity here, which says buy box of this seller. But we can also check that on SellerAmp and keep us, so don't worry. But you can see here, sometimes there's 2 buy boxes, which says another way to buy. 90% of the time it doesn't show that, but it also shows a second buy box, and it's a much cheaper price. And Amazon's presenting that as an option for the customer, because if you click on it, it becomes the main buy box, right? But what's important to note, because if you just look at the buy box and you don't look at SellerAmp and you want to close your eyes and say, let me just look at the buy box, not SellerAmp, you can actually see if the seller is FBA or FBM. Ready? Dive in closely here to my cursor. It says ships from Amazon, sold by the seller's name. Okay? Now look at this one. Another way to buy. This is the second buy box. Ships from seller's name, sold by seller's name. Okay? There it goes. That's the FBM. There's only two ways to do it. FBA or FBM. So you're going to see FBA, you're going to see ships by Amazon, sold by the seller, shipped by the seller, sold by the seller. There you go. Okay, so that's kind of a broad rundown on the buy box, and of course, we'll dive much more into it. Maybe I'll make an entire video on how to win the buy box, strategy, and so on, right? But first chart, buy box, pricing. That's all you need to know. What is this price selling at? We can do it over the time. We can go from right to left to see what the pricing is. That way, we can make an accurate decision on if we want to buy this product to sell it or not. Because if buy box is rotating from 90 to 30 or 90 to 60, it's like, oh my God, that's a $30 price difference. We might be buying it for 50. So we're between unprofitable and profitable. It's like, that's way too crazy and too much of a risk, okay? So if you open up for the past year, you want to ideally see more and more stability, but sometimes that's just not always the case. You're going to find a lot of listings that don't have stability, that are a little bit more riskier, and you can make the decision if you want to risk it or not. But the good thing is Keepa gives us all this data, guys, right? Like the data is all right in front of us, okay? So Keepa gives us all the data that we need to know to make a proper decision, because we can see pricing over time, and of course we're going to dive into volume and sellers over time, okay? So there's a top chart. Put that in your head. Remember, top chart, there's three sections to Keepa. Top chart is price, all right? And price and buy box. Price/buy box. Now, for the middle chart, we're going to look at sales volume. How well is this listing doing? How many sales can we get? That's all we care about. All right? How many sales can we get? Because this listing can do 10,000 sales per month. Can we get 10,000? Right? We want to get sales. That's how we make money on this business. All right? So you're going to see two things: a wave of green, and then a new feature, only been a year and a half or so old, by Amazon, that they talk about the monthly sold. I'm going to toggle it on and off so you can see it pop up. Off, on. Okay? So Amazon just added that about a year and a half ago or so. It's new, and I'm going to show you that in Keepa. But that yellow chart, that yellow line, it shows the monthly sales all time of Amazon, all right? And not all time, as long as the Keepa chart has been around, right? So that number is very accurate, guys, right? If it says 50 sales per month, which it does here when I run my cursor over it here on, July 14th at, 6 o'clock at night, it says 50 monthly sold. If you dive into it, it says like right above the green chart, it says monthly sold, okay? And it also, if you just look to the left, kind of like looking at a chart, it just shows it here on the left on the monthly sold volume. So that number is very accurate. Typically, if it says 50 monthly sold, it's either between 40 or 60. It's right there, all right? Because Amazon's not going to lie, right? The data is right there. That also shows on the front of the listing. I don't know if you caught that, but here at the top now, it says 50 plus bought in the last month, okay? So you get a really good, accurate information there that, okay, this listing sells 50 times a month, all right? So one, that's how you calculate volume, because if you do it over the past year, you can see how this chart changes. 50 plus months sold to 100 plus to 200 plus, back down to 100, back down to 50, back up to 100, back up to 200, back down to 100. You can see how it moves, right? Are you guys seeing the yellow chart here? If you zoom in here, I'm going to zoom in here a bit. You see the monthly chart here? It's going up and down over time. For the most part, it's decently consistent here at 100. It pops up to 200, down to 50. It's okay. But there it is. That's the monthly chart, okay? And that's what we want to analyze, right? Now, the second thing to also evaluate is the BSR. Remember I mentioned that, the lower the better? So the BSR is the best sellers rank, right? That means how well this listing is doing within its category. Every product has a category. Healthcare, household, tools, beauty, you name it. Clothes, outdoors, right? So we want these products to be as low as possible, because that shows how well they're performing on the marketplace in their category, right? And if we have a consistent BSR, that means even during Christmas, even during Thanksgiving, even during all of the holidays, this product sells consistently. Now, again, of course, it's great if it sells like way more in December, but then it goes back to consistency. But we just want to see consistency to make sure we can track this data and know exactly how many sales we're going to do, whether we're in January, March, December, October, wherever we are, okay? So this will show you how well it's doing. Obviously, you just really need to mirror the monthly sales. Before, they never had that, so you had to study BSR in every category. But this monthly sales shows you like how many monthly sales this listing, it's just for this listing that it gets every single month. Okay, so also there's another tactic to show you how many expected monthly sales there are outside of showing you on SellerAmp and on the main listing that we'll dive into in a little bit. But this gives you much of the information that you would ever need to know, all right? And if we dive open to the all-time chart, the yellow chart cuts off back in 2024. Like I said, it's fairly new, but the BSR is still there, and you can still see how consistent it is or not consistent it is, all right? Now, last but not least, the third thing, the seller count, all right? This is so critical, so critical. The seller count is so important to read and analyze, because if we buy a product that is profitable today, right? The price looks good, the volume looks good, but the seller count is skyrocketing like a plane taking off of an airport. Maybe planes are a little bit more based, but let's say like a rocket ship going on up. What can you imagine how will happen to the price? The price will sink, because as demand goes up, competition goes up. Sellers are going to compete with pricing. We're going to keep lowering our pricing, going lower and lower and lower, trying to get sales and win the buy box, right? So we want to avoid all the charts that look like that. Now, this chart pretty much shows that, okay, for the most part. The way to do that is, remember what I said, offers are considered new sellers with Amazon. If you run your cursor, just like we did with price and volume, over this chart here, and you go to offer count, you can see here, the current offer count is at 49. It shows it right there, new offer count 49, July 21st, 3 p.m. and 3:32. Now, if you go back all the way here, I'm on June 11th, the offer count was 10. So we went from 10 sellers to 49, 39 seller increase in a month, right? So I'm going to zoom in for a second. Watch what I do here. I'm going to click on the screen and drag my cursor. You can see the constant rise, right? We don't want to see that, right? Because now our competition is skyrocketing and we have less of a chance to get sales, right? What we want to see is consistent pricing, all right? We want to see consistent pricing over time so that we can continue to sell this product day over day, month over month, year over year, and make profit. Not have to worry about our price being tanked, because our margin might not be huge. So if we start getting tanked, there goes our profit, all right? So the seller count here, as you can tell, is at 49. It came up from 10, and it started 3 months ago at, you can cut off a little bit, but about 12 or 13, okay? So it's going from 12 or 13 within 3 months to 49. What can you imagine? Not a great thing about the price, right? But you have to make sure to analyze this, and I've dived into a lot of videos of this on how to read the keeper chart. You have to analyze how the price responds. If the price continues to tank, that's not a good sign. If the price stays stable, okay, there's still an opportunity, right? And the price does stay stable, so it's not the worst of signs, all right? If the price tanked, then we have to run for the hills, right? But all in all, this third chart shows offer count, okay? So we have price, volume, offer count. Now, that's basically the broad feature of Keepa, because we can go into the all-time chart. We can see the all-time history of the offer count, the price, the volume, everything, right in front of us. But for the most part, we're looking at recency bias. We're looking at the past 12 months, 9 months, 3 months, so on, right? So that's the front-facing part of Keepa. Now, there's even better way to use Keepa, right? As you hit data, I'll go back into that just in case you missed it. Here at the top, if I hit data, and I go into product details, you can see details of the product, meaning the BSR, what category is in, its name, its ASIN, and so on. You don't really need this, right? It also shows you the sales rank over the past 30 days, 90 days. Most of that you can see just kind of off of like analyzing and looking at it, but you can also just get that information here. It also tells you what the buy box is, like when the buy box was 1, when the buy box average 90-day price, it was 1 at, average 180-day price. But most of that you will learn and read once you can just see it off of it, face value, right? But let's go to the offers tab. So here in the offers tab, remember what I said? Offers means new sellers, right? Offers means new sellers. We can actually dive in here, all on Keepa, the price history, the stock quantity, and the chart of the stock quantity of every single seller. If you go here from left to right, there's different graphs. It might look confusing for you here, but it's very simple. You're going to see the price, the price history, the amount sold in the past 30 days, and their stock history going up and down when they restock inventory, when they lose inventory, and then who the seller is. You see their name, Maximus Experience, okay? So you can do this for every single seller on this listing to get every single piece of data you need to make a proper decision, all right? So you can see here across all these different sellers, quality control, Tessero Shop, Avidity, you see their stock changing, going down or going up as they replenish stock as it goes down, but you can dive into this and spend hours and hours and hours and days on just looking at these stock histories and sellers and what they're selling, what they're not selling. But what the best part about this is, you got to use this. You have to use this intertwined or use it together with this strategy, because this is going to help you a lot. Where my cursor is, where it says buy box statistics, you click on this, right? And what you're going to see is the percentage of the buy box won from every single seller on this listing, all right? So you have Takara Bay Company, Tessero Shop, LFK Close and Go, Winning Vibes, and if you look on the far left, it says percentage won. 15, 15, 11, 10, 7, 5, 4, 4. So buy box is rotating among sellers, which is a good sign for us, but even better, everybody's winning buy box, which is a really good sign. And you can even see what sellers winning the buy box and what their reviews are, when they last won it, how often they win it, what's their average price of winning it, right? So now, when you have this data on the buy box, who's winning the buy box at what price and so on, you can use this alongside the offers tab to see, okay, the number one seller is Takara Bay Company, right? So let's go find Takara Bay Company. I'm going to scroll down here on the Keepa. Let's see if we can find him or her. They have to be somewhere here. If not, let's go to the next one, Tessero Shop. Now you go to Tessero Shop. They're saying Tessero Shop wins the buy box 15% of the time, okay? So what you can actually do is you can go to Tessero Shop stock here and go from left to right to see their stock go down a ladder and see how fast it's selling, how much it's selling, which you can see. His or her stock went from 9 all the way down to 1, all right? In how many days? 5 days. I see that it goes from July 16th to July 21st. You can see that, right? So 8 units he sold in 5 days. So you can do this with every single seller, the ones who are winning buy box majority of the time, to project in your head how many listings you will get as a seller. Because remember, this entire listing does 50 times per month. But how many sales can you get per month? And of course, there'll be many more videos on that and many more ways to dive in. But just using a few of these resources and tactics, you'll get a lot of information just off of how many sales you could win per month. So again, let's recap the Keepa here. We have the Keepa chart as price, volume, and sellers. Then to use it even more as a deep dive, you go into data. You go to the offers tab to see stock, to see the sellers, to see their pricing history. I'm running my cursor from right to left here. It's like the third chart here to the left. You can run your cursor here to see what pricing they're selling at. And you see buy box statistics, all right? And you can also use product details. But there's a ton of information there into the Keepa that will help you make a proper decision. And I have many videos on it, which you'll dive into. But there's a really, really good overview of now having the Keepa chart. And now we have the SellerAmp. So we have our 2 softwares going to work to give us all the information we need to see, okay, is this a good Amazon listing? Is this not a good Amazon listing, right? All right, now we're going to dip our toes into sourcing. So we're going to have 2 methods. One that we really want to focus on, and the second is like an add-on, right, to take it to the next level. So we have reverse sourcing, which is stealing like an artist. And then we have manual sourcing, which is basically just browsing off of the brands or products that we already found, okay? So listen to this carefully. Reverse sourcing is nothing but looking at what other successful sellers are doing on the marketplace, right? We're going to be able to see their entire storefront, their entire catalog of products, and reverse source their products and pull them into our catalog. Because we're going to say, hey, if this water bottle is doing very well for seller A, there's a good chance that it could do very well for me if I just, buy the same product, list his product in the storefront, and jump on the listing and share buy box to get sales, okay? So now the key in that is finding the good listings and then finding the source site. We may find maybe the same source site as that seller, or we might find a completely different source site at a better price or whatever price it may be, right? So we're going to dive into that. And just doing that, you can do reverse sourcing with OA. It's a bit harder to do with wholesale, but you can do it with wholesale as long as you know what you're doing with targeting sellers and knowing which sellers to target in your, your rating range and other analytics and statistics that we'll look at, very, very detailed, but you're going to find a whole heck of a lot of success. And then manually sourcing, this is the exact strategy I've been doing, reverse sourcing into manually sourcing, guys. I've been doing this for 3 years and I've scaled my business to 6 figures a month. And you can too. It's not some crazy thing. And I know you guys can do it too. So we're going to walk through it and we're going to show you how to find, a product off of reverse sourcing, basically copycatting other sellers, and how to expand your catalog by manually sourcing, by taking that brand name, that category, that product, putting it into Amazon.com and finding 4 or 5 other products just off of that one sourced product. Okay, so let's dive into it. We'll also talk about demand, trends, consistency across sellers, and what you want to look for as we dive into here in sourcing. And then in the next part, we're actually going to find suppliers for these listings. So I'm going to show you how to do that in detail so that you can start doing it on your own. And we're only an hour and a half or 2 hours into this video. Okay, so let's dive into this listing now. All right, so we're pulling the curtain back and we're going here back onto the listing where we broke down SellerAmp and we broke down Keepa. So we're just going to keep working off of this listing because you guys are now familiar with it. You know how it looks, you know how it works, you know the pricing, the sellers, everything about it. So we're just going to work on this listing, but don't worry, I'm going to go through another example through the reverse sourcing tactic to see other listings as well. So what you want to do to reverse source, and it's all done through SellerAmp, the software that shows us the profit, but it also gives us the keys to reverse source and find products. So what you want to do here on the far right, because your SellerAmp is always going to open up here on the right, you want to scroll down to where you see the sellers, right? Remember, offer count means sellers, all right? So where it says seller here, right, alongside where it says offers, you're going to have a bunch of different sellers, which we went through already, on who else is selling on this listing. If you look at the bottom, it says 48 total offers, okay? So we have FBM, 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 FBA, right? All different sellers, whether they're fulfilling this product out of their house, out of their warehouse, or they're shipping it to Amazon and working with Amazon's FBA program, okay? So they have all different pricing, all different stock quantities, all different information. Every single one of these sellers is different in their own rights. They may carry different products. They may carry the same products. They might like working in beauty products or, film products, all different types of things, right? But what's important, right, when reverse sourcing, which we're about to dive into, is you want to copycat or follow the tactics and the rhythms of sellers who are in our range. And when I say in our range, that means in our size range. We don't want them to have 10 million reviews or 2 million reviews. You want them to have 5 reviews, 10 reviews, 20 reviews, right? Because many of you are just going to be just starting off with a fresh account, 0 reviews, 0 sales. So we want to target sellers that we can actually compete with. Because if you're a new seller and you're competing with a very, very large seller with 10 million reviews or 10,000 reviews, there's a low chance of you getting a lot of the sales or the majority of the buy box in that listing. For common sense reasons, right? Amazon's going to tailor to the big seller because they've been doing this for years and they can trust their inventory. And that keeps the integrity of the marketplace for Amazon, right? So we want to approach and focus on sellers that are in our range. They have 2 reviews, 5 reviews, 10 reviews, etc. Because we know that chances are they're just starting off, they're not as advanced, they don't know, perfect metrics, but they're selling this product and they're probably making money. So we want to focus on those sellers that we can take advantage of. Because the bigger sellers also, they're at a different scale. They're selling wholesale products. They're buying products for 30, 40, 50% cheaper. We're just never going to be able to compete with them, right? Especially when you're just starting off. So we're going to focus on sellers who are smaller, in our range, in our wheelhouse, okay? Not only that, you also want to focus on sellers who are selling FBA, right, guys? Because that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to sell FBA, not FBM. We're not looking to fulfill this product out of our house or apartment, right? Because we're looking to do it completely remote. But if we're doing it FBA, we can ship it with our prep center and then ship it to the fulfillment centers or the Amazon warehouses and so on. So we're in the competition range or the focus range in the strategy mindset of we want to sell products that are FBA, because if we focus on listings that are FBA, FBM, fulfilled by merchant, chances are they're going to be selling a lot of their products fulfilled by merchant, FBM, because maybe that's their strategy or that's what they like to do. So we want to focus in here on FBA listings so we can copy other FBA sellers, right? And if that doesn't make sense, let me know in the comments as always, and I'll answer that as quick as I can. So just off of face value, I'm looking at all the sellers on this listing, actually only 30 of them. Let me load more, right? Where I'll be able to see 38. We're gonna try to load all 48 sellers. Here we go, right? This entire SellerAmp sheet shows me every single seller, their stock quantity, their price, and any other information about them, their ratings, all here that are selling on this listing. There's 48 of them, right? Some are FBM, some are FBA. There's a mix of both, okay? 18 FBA, 30 FBM. It says it here at the bottom. What you want to do to reverse source, and it's as simple as this. You just click on the seller, right? Where it says FBA or FBM, right? You want to click on the seller because that's where the name pops up. And it's going to take us right into the seller's storefront. And a storefront is what of all the products in their catalog that they're selling, right? They might sell 10 products, 20 products, 40 products. But watch what I do here. I'm going to click on a seller who's in our range, LFK, clothes and goods, 176 reviews. It's not too big. It's not too small. I'm going to click on him and we're going to dive into his storefront, okay? It's loading up here. Let's give it a minute. Now, we're here. We're on this seller storefront. And this is what you're going to see on this seller. You're going to see his name. You're going to see his reviews. You're going to see his ASIN count. ASIN count means listing count, right? How many different listings he's selling on, which basically means how many different products is he selling, right? Remember, every single listing has their own ASIN. So if he's selling 333 ASINs, it's 333 listings or 333 different products, okay? So you're going to be able to see that off of the face value in the top left. Now on the right, you're going to be able to see the brands that he's selling. Now, if you're 6 months in, 7 months in as a seller, and you want to start targeting specific brands because you know you have a good relationship with the supplier, maybe you're doing wholesale at that time, or maybe you have a good relationship with a retailer and they're always in stock for this CeraVe product. You know it, it's hard to find, it's hard to get. You really like the CeraVe product, and maybe you know the manager at the store, right? And you could buy this in bulk, or you could buy this at good, good volume and so on, where I want to target all the CeraVe products because I have a good relationship, or I have a good retailer. Maybe my cousin is a shop owner and I can buy from them all the time. Whatever it may be, if you like a brand, you can actually target it through SellerAmp because you see this seller and you can see this seller is carrying 10 products from this brand called Red Heart, 7 from Cambro, 7 from Cameron's Coffee, 7 from Yeti, 5 from Nike. So you see very quickly all the different brands that this seller is selling, right? So if I want to just focus on a brand in specific, I can click on this brand, which I'm going to do later on, and you're going to see all the products that he's selling from this brand. So now if we found a seller who's doing Amazon successfully because maybe we like a lot of the listings he's selling, we see there's a lot of opportunity, good pricing, consistency, and we end up finding, a supplier to buy the product from, then we can target specific brands and say, hey, if he's carrying 10 products from the brand called Red Heart, maybe we can carry 7 or 8 of them profitably. Maybe we like 7 or 8 of the listings. Now you can kind of expand your net into carrying more products just off of one seller storefront. But what we're going to do here, we're going to scroll down. Watch me scroll down here where you see different listings popping up. Guys, these are all just Amazon listings on Amazon, all right? What you're seeing here is different products across the marketplace. DualSense, Edge, Stick Model, okay? This is Mini Brands, Ulta Beauty Series, okay? A video game, PS5, college football. These are all the products that this seller is selling. Remember, 333 ASIN counts, right? 333 products, okay? So if I just keep scrolling down, I hit load more, these are all of his listings. So remember, we were just on a listing where we broke down the listing. We looked at the profit, the SellerAmp. We looked at the Keepa to see the sales volume, the sellers, and the pricing, everything like that. Now, what you're getting is 80 or 90 more of these listings just right here. It's 300 in total, but just from this one seller of what he's carrying, right? So what we do here is we scan this entire seller's catalog, right? We look through all of the potential products that this seller is selling, and we're saying which ones have good price, good consistent sales, and a good seller count. Not too many, not too little. And when we find those, we actually open those up into a new listing. We do a deep dive on that. And then we go to online, right? We go to google.com and we find a supplier for that. We say, okay, this product looks really good and I need to buy it at $34 to hit my 30% ROI and my $5 profit per item. You type in that product name, which we'll do. You dive into that, which we're going to dive into how to find a supplier, and you go and try to find a source site. And when you do, you list that product in your catalog through your Seller Central. You go in your back into your Seller Central. You say list the product. You copy the ASIN number, list it in the catalog, and then you're good to start selling it. You could then buy from the retailer or the supplier, bring it into your prep center, have the prep center ship it to Amazon, and wait for the sales to come in, right? Stay competitive on pricing and wait for the sales to come in, okay? So looking through this entire catalog, what you want to do is you want to see what products might align with your values, okay? If you're looking to sell clothes, right? Shoes, clothes, you're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing OCs, you're seeing underwear, you're seeing Lululemon, right? So if you want to sell clothes, you can know very quickly, all right, this seller is aligned with what I want to do, right? Because he's selling clothes and I want to sell clothes, right? So you can see, oh, he might have 60 or 70 clothes listings. Let me look into these listings even further, and let me look into this seller even further, okay? Now, if you wanted to sell something completely different, maybe it's not worth it because he's selling maybe one specific category or one specific brand. And if you don't like that, you move on to a new seller, which I'll do in a sec. But if you do like it, you want to continue to evaluate it. So what I'm going to do here now is what you're seeing on the front value is you're seeing the listing. You're seeing a sneak preview here of the SellerAmp on the right where it says FBA, FBA, FBA. That's the exact same thing that we look at when it's on the actual listing itself, right? You can see their price and their stock quantity. Now, and again, you're going to see the same thing you see on SellerAmp. You're going to see the offers tab, which remember, it's sellers. You're going to see the buy box price. You're going to see the max cost of what we have to buy it for to be profitable. You're going to see the estimated monthly sales, and you're going to see the BSR, which you'll learn it, more and more as you go. And the best feature about this is you're going to get the Keepa chart here in the far right of a sneak peek of the Keepa chart before you even open up the listing. So Keepa is actually integrated here with SellerAmp. So they've partnered where you can get a sneak preview of the SellerAmp and the Keepa all right in front of you, where now you can analyze 300, 400, 500 listings all without opening up a different Amazon page. Now, guys, remember, you want to open up the Amazon page and go to the next step when it actually looks quality, right? You don't want to just open it. Let's just open up every single listing here, because remember, you're getting all the data right in front of you. You're getting the pricing, you're getting the information, you're getting the Keepa chart all right here. So you only want to open it up to the next page when it looks good, when it checks all of our metrics, right? All of our checkpoints, pricing, consistency in sales, and offer count. If it checks those out, buy boxes being won by a smaller seller, we know the light goes off in our head. There's an opportunity here, okay? But first, let's try to find some of those opportunities. So I'm going to scroll down here. I personally don't work in the shoes or clothing category, okay? Just because it's a bit more difficult with returns and it's a bigger niche and I don't work in it. But, to each their own. So let's evaluate some of the listings that maybe I align with from this seller, or we can look at shoes if you want as well. But we're going to look at some of the listings that may look quality to me, okay? So here's my exact process. Here's the product, Stanley water bottle, okay? Everybody's pretty familiar with. I'm going to go left to right. BSR is a very low BSR, right? That's very, very low. That's one of the top products I can get in its category. Estimated monthly sales, 200. That's a good volume. Estimated monthly cost, 20.88, because our sell price is 42. That's a good sell price. Offer count, 30. That's not the end of the world. 30 is not crazy. And it's not crazy high. It's obviously we'd like to get 20 or 25, but it is what it is, okay? Buy box price is at 41.47. So this seller is trying to get sales at 42, and the buy box is at 41.47. So he's trying to stay consistent here, but he's obviously priced a bit higher than what the actual buy box is getting one at, okay? Once I look at this, what I want to do is I'm going to move to my SellerAmp here, my quick guide of the SellerAmp, first 5 sellers, see what their ratings are, how big they are of sellers, 688, 56, 273, 155. Okay, a bunch of small sellers, right? And when you see small sellers, it means there's opportunity, okay? So this also checks out. Now we're going to move all the way to the right. We're just going from left to right, guys, like a book. You're going to go into the SellerAmp. Does it look consistent? I know it's a bit hard to see here. I can zoom in. It's a bit hard to see, but does it look consistent? Okay, pricing looks decently consistent. It's coming down a little bit, but the volume looks okay because, you know, it's kind of in the same volume range. And where it says new FBA, new FBM, that's showing where, I'm sorry, the new FBA, new FBM, that's not pricing, that's the offer count, okay? It's a bit different when it's on the sneak preview, but the new offer count looks pretty consistent, right? It's staying between, you know, 30 and 40 sellers, okay? So we can see, oh, I'm sorry, that's a mix of 2, all right? So that's the offer count, and I've never seen that before. So that's the mix of 2, the offer count and the price they're selling it at. They're kind of mixing in here because they're trying to join everything together before you even open up the listing on the Keepa. So we're getting really good information that, okay, pricing is consistent and offer count's consistent and the sales volume is consistent. So what I would do here, guys, is I open up this listing into a new tab because I'm saying to myself, and you're going to be saying to yourself, this listing looks like it has value. It looks like it has potential. So I want to take it to the next step. So look, think of it like this. You're doing checks and balances, okay? So you're doing, let's run it through the first team. And if the first team says, okay, bump it up to the next team, tier 2. If the tier 2, if we go on the Amazon listing and everything looks good from what we looked at and we get the okay, go find a supplier, bump it up to tier 3. The supplier team, we'll call it. I mean, I know it's only you, but you're putting it into different categories and stages of your head. So then when you go to the supplier team, right, now you're saying, can we find a supplier? And if we do, list the product and start making sales, okay? So I'm going to actually open up this listing into a new site. Let's let it load here. Now, we're here on the listing, okay, which is the Stanley Quencher H2.0 Flow State Stainless Steel. This is the product. It's a water bottle, right? We've seen many of these in Kohl's, Marshall's, Walmart, all of the stores you can imagine, and all of the online retailers that you can imagine, right? So now that I'm on the listing, this is the same exact process that we did when we first analyzed Fujifilm, right? So when we went down SellerAmp and then we went down Keepa, this is the same exact process that we did. We have a fresh new listing that checked off the first team. Can it check off the second team to see if it's valuable enough to look into? So first things I do, I look at the volume. I look if we're eligible or not, which in this case, it says no, okay, meaning you're not eligible to sell. Now there's 2 things you can do, which we'll talk about also later, is you can approve to apply to sell and get auto approved, depending on how long you've been selling on Amazon, or send them an invoice and get ungated, okay? Which means buying the products, getting an invoice from the authorized distributor, right? And that's according to Amazon's compliances and requirements, and sending the invoice and saying, hey, look, we're sending authentic inventory. Please approve of us, okay? So tells me I'm no gated right away, okay? So I have to do one of those 2 things if I'm not auto ungated, all right? Then I go into the sellers. I look at the price, but I'm going to go and look at the sellers, making sure that we have competition, that we're in good competition range, right? Because the buy box is at $39.49. So, okay, we have $41.47, $157, $64, $304. Okay, $150. Okay, good sellers in our range. This looks good, all right? Now, what you want to do is go into the Keepa chart, right? We're going to go into our old Keepa chart because remember, if you get a degree in this, if you master this chart, it will be the last thing you need to do on Amazon because when you master this chart, you can make every right decision, right? And we're going to go through our normal checks and balances here, right? Top to bottom, okay? We're going to go price, volume, seller count, right? Say it with me. Price, volume, seller count. You have to do these 3 checks. And when they all pass and all give the thumbs up, then we can move on to say, let's maybe go find a supplier after we do some more of our deep dive, okay? but we have to make sure that we see some consistency and some opportunity for the future. Because guys, remember, the day you buy this product, let's talk about sellers for a sec. The day you buy this product, let's say today is the day, which is July 22nd, 2025. It's going to take a few days to come in for the inventory, right, from the supplier. Then it's going to take a few days to be packed and prepped from the prep center. And then it's going to take a few days to arrive at the Amazon fulfillment center. And then they have to, inbound the inventory and get it live for your inventory. So you could be anywhere from 7, 10, 14 days by the day you buy the product, by the day it's ready to sell. So if the trend of the seller count in 14 days is going up 15 sellers every 14 days, well, we have no chance of getting sales at the price it's selling at now in 14 days because the price is going to go even lower, right? Especially if the seller count's going up. So you can kind of use that for yourself as a little bit of an insight or a little bit of a tell of, okay, is there opportunity here when we actually start selling the product, not just today, all right? So let's start with the top. Price looks very, very consistent, all right? Look at the seller counts, very, very consistent. Buy box is rotating very, very fast. Very good sign for us. Let's look at volume, okay? Volume is very, very consistent, stays pretty low in the kitchen and dining category here. Now, the only thing here is the yellow chart, if we open it up too, because I like opening it up to the 1 year chart, it's going down a bit, all right? So the 1 year chart for the volume shows me it's selling at 200 times a month, all the way back from here until July 10th. And then from there till May 8th, it was selling 100 times a month. And then from May 8th to back in April, it's selling 50 times a month. Then if we run our cursor over this, we can see it jumps back over to 100 times a month and back down to 50, and then it goes up and up and up. In December, look at the difference. In December, it's selling 6,000 times a month. In July, it's selling 200 times a month. So within just a few months, the volume is skyrocketing, okay? But I'm going to tell you why here in a second. If I'm going to, once I scroll up here on the screen, you're going to see something. Amazon is selling the product themselves at that timeline, okay? So back in January, back in December, back during Q4, Amazon was selling the product. So when we open up to the 1 year chart, which is what we did from 3 months to 1 year to get a bigger scope of things, we can see that this listing was getting dominated, okay, by Amazon, and the pricing was no longer consistent, which is not a good sign. So that already tells me I don't want to focus on this, all right? And the fact that the seller count is rising the past year a lot, not a good sign. And it's even rising the past 3 months, right? Because it's going from 12 all the way to 30. So seeing this in detail shows us we don't want to touch this product, right? We don't want to touch this product because it just has too much problems, right? It doesn't meet our requirements. So what you do is you X out of this product, you dive back into the seller storefront, and you continue to reverse source other listings from the seller, all right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to exit out here. We're going to go back into this seller storefront. Let's let it load here for a sec. And now we're going to continue to go down his catalog, guys. And this is just reverse sourcing, all right? You're going to continue to find different products that might fit our niche, our requirements, our preferences on what works and what doesn't work to see, okay, this listing looks good. This listing looks no good, okay? And he has 333 listings. Now, guess what? Here's the trick. If we dive back into our original listing here, which is the Fujifilm product, there's 18 other FBA sellers. And if you wanted to reverse source FBM sellers, you can. I don't really recommend it because their competition is a bit different. And guys, remember, these sellers could be FBM on these listings, but they could be FBA on another listings. You can list inventory, both FBA and FBM, and you can change it at any time on any different listing. So as long as you don't have, inventory in there. But so, feel free if you want to dive into some of these FBM sellers and see what are they selling FBM and maybe they have some FBA listings, you 100% can. But that one seller had 333 listings. You have 48 other sellers to look through just off of this one listing. And that's why it's important to find a good listing to start reverse sourcing, because those other sellers, chances are having other success on other good listings, okay? So you want to dive in to all of these other sellers on this listing. And when I mean dive in, just open up their storefronts, just like this. I click on this seller. Let's let it load. You click on this seller, BBB wholesale store, go to the next. You go to the next seller, right? Go to the next one, which is K&M Picks, TSR Trading. You just continue to reverse source and look at different sellers to see what they're selling. Can we sell it successfully? Let's pull it into our catalog and try to find a supplier. Okay. So that's a broad rundown, maybe a detailed rundown on reverse sourcing products. Now, what we want to look at is we found a good brand, okay? In our head, we found a really good brand, a category, whatever it may be. What you want to do is you want to take that brand or that category, that, that division of products, whatever you want to call it, and you want to put it into the regular search.amazon.com search bar. And what's going to pop up from there is all of the brands or categories or listings within that search term. Okay. For this case, and of course you can do it by category, I'm going to do Fujifilm, right? Because this is a good source site that we're sitting on. We feel confident in the other sellers. We feel confident in the pricing that we got here. And we think that this brand can do very successful across 5 or so different listings. So when I type in Fujifilm here, I'm going to type in Fujifilm into the search bar here at Amazon.com, right? Which anybody can do. You don't have to have any software, any tools for this, right? You're going to scroll down and you're going to see all of the products that are selling under this category, right? Or under this brand, which is Fujifilm. And remember, you can do this for category too. You can go into the search bar and type a niche category. You can say medical healthcare supplies. You can see, nail polish, made by this brand. You can do it for any single niche category and you'll see different listings popping up, different opportunities, different potentials. Okay. So remember, you're manually sourcing this and you want to use it in Tango, in Limbo with reverse sourcing. Because when you get on these listings and they check out and they look good, you then want to reverse source the entire listing. All right. And if that doesn't make sense, as always, shoot it in the comments. So we're going to go across all of these listings and analyze if they meet our requirements. Do they meet our pricing requirements? Which remember, we want to stay between 20 and 50. We don't want to get too high because returns might hurt us, etc. Do they meet our volume requirements? Do they have good volume, meaning consistent sales volume every month? And do they meet our seller requirements? Do they have a lot of sellers, a lot of low sellers, or just the right number, right? So what you do is you just dive through all of these different listings here on Amazon, right? You're seeing all these different products come up from Fujifilm because that's what we typed into the search bar. And you see, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? Does this meet our price? Too high? Okay, it's kind of close. Maybe we'll dive into it. It has really good volume. Then you just open up the listing, guys. So you open up the listing and you dive into it to analyze it the same way that we just analyzed those past listings. We look at the seller count, we look at the offer count, we look at the volume, we look at everything, the pricing, the consistency, everything. And if you think it's a really good product, what you do is you then take that. All right, we're back on the course guide. So for a recap, we learned how to reverse source, and we learned how to manually source products or manually browsing, all for the products that we already reverse sourced. So the brands, listings, categories that we already found, source, do well for us. Now we can manually source all for those products through Amazon's search tool to find more products, right? So now you know 2 methods of sourcing: reverse sourcing and manual sourcing. Okay. So now a little recap: validating demands, reviews, trends, consistency across sellers. One important thing to note that we didn't talk about, I wouldn't say it's like the make or break on listings, but always look at the reviews of listings, because chances are if the reviews are 3 stars, 3 is not terrible, but 2 stars out of 5, that's pretty bad, right? That means that product that there's a lot of returns, refunds, or the customers just don't like it. So even if it sold 400 units a month or 1,000 units a month, why would we invest our hard-earned money as our inventory, into this product when it's not going to result in a profit, right? It's going to result in returns, refunds, complaints, and who knows, right? So you want to find products that have the reviews of 4 stars and plus. Many of them on Amazon already have that, right? Like if you just go on Amazon search bar, you'll see millions of products that have 4 stars and up. But if it has 1 star or 2 stars, like pay close attention to that and put some weight into that and understand like why and maybe we shouldn't approach this product and so on. All right. So now that we know how to find an actual quality Keepa chart and listing, right, where we can say, okay, this is a great listing. A lot of people are making money on this listing, but how can we make money, right? And by us making money, we have to go and find a supplier. So how do we do that? We found a quality listing. We know we need to buy for $25, but where do we buy this product for $25? I'm going to show you how. Let's dive right into it. And that's how you actually source the supplier. So in this part 3, what we're going to go over is supplier walkthrough. We're going to analyze a supplier, see if they're good or not, point out some things that I noticed from the past 3.5 years that I've been doing this, how to contact suppliers or the source site, right? And whether that's wholesale, we'll dip our toes into that. Or if that's just a regular retailer, how to contact them, how to speak with them, and so on. Looking at reviews and then trustability. So we'll dive into Trustpilot to see if they're trusted or not. Then we'll compare suppliers. If we can find 2, we'll look at their quality of reviews and then if they're priced competitively compared to each other. And then we'll also talk about a prep center, okay, which we haven't talked about too much, but to the Amazon FBA completely remote, we're going to need one of these guys to do our handling, packing, and prepping of the products to send to Amazon fulfillment centers. So I'll talk very briefly of how to use a prep center, how to communicate with them, and we'll dive into that. So first things first, we're going to find a supplier now for the product that we were just sourcing. Even if the pricing doesn't work out, I'm going to show you how to break down the supplier, how to talk to them, and everything you need to know with a supplier so that you can go and find a profitable one. All right. So I'm going to dive back in here onto the actual product that we have here. And what I do is, it's very simple. I just copy the entire name of the listing, basically the name of the product, and I put it into Google, right? And it's so simple and straightforward, but just take the exact product and copy and paste it into Google. Now, as I do that, we are now on a Google listing, mainstay of all these different products that are going to pop up. Remember, Google has an algorithm too. So they're going to push you the bigger companies, the bigger retailers, or, if you use the word supplier, they'll push you in the suppliers in there. But Google is basically deciding on who they want to show to you first. Okay. These are all these listings who they're saying, hey, buy from this person. You're looking for this product, buy from this person because maybe they're advertising with us, sponsored, says it, or maybe they're just one of the bigger ones that people trust and they have good reviews from, right? So it's important to know before we even dive into this, you have to confirm that it's the same exact product, okay? If it's not the same exact product, we cannot sell it. We have to find another source site or supplier that has the same product because if you give the Amazon customer product A that's size 10 and the listing says it's product B, size 8, I know it's self-explanatory, but you have to catch it because sometimes it's small. Well, what can you expect to happen? You're going to get a complaint and you're going to get a refund and a return. So now you're losing money because you're getting a refund on the product and you're paying for return fees. And you're just getting a bad review from them. You're telling Amazon that, hey, I really don't know what I'm doing, right? So we don't want to do that. So you have to evaluate to make sure it's the correct product, right? So we have here, it's called the Fujifilm Quick Snap Flash 400 disposable 35 camera, okay, millimeter camera. Now, for the most part, you can kind of just look at the Amazon listing and the source site. If it's a supplier or distributor, it's typically going to look the exact same unless it's like out of date or something. So you can use that method, but also make sure the name matches or the model number matches, okay? So we have here, this is the Fujifilm Quick Snap Flash 400 disposable 35 millimeter camera, okay? And it's actually a 3-pack. Also, there's also a cloth and some sort of, what is this, holder? I think it is. Hand strap. Okay, a hand strap and a cloth that goes along with this listing. Now, for many listings, it's not like this. Okay, it's just typically the products. And that's typically the ones you want to find. But the fact that there's 2 extra accessory items in here, have to evaluate it, right? And you always have to see if it's a 3-pack, 1-pack, whatever, right? Because if you send a 1-pack and you include the accessories, The customer is expecting a 3-pack. Bad review, okay? And other problems, all right? So let's dive back in here onto the source sites. Now, what you want to do is you want to find the same exact product, right? For now, we're just going to look for the product. We're not going to look for the accessories because that typically doesn't happen, having to have some sort of accessories like a cloth and phone held. Typically, it's like just the cameras or just the product. I'd say 99.99% of the time. But for this case, it's extra accessories. So we want to find that product, right? Which is 400 disposable 35mm camera. Now, do we have a picture of it? Let's pop into it here. Here's what it looks like. 27 exposure, quick snap flash camera. Okay, one-time use. Gives you some details here. Now, let's dive back into the source site. This just off of face value looks like it. It even says it, 27 exposures, 8-pack. Okay, this looks decent. Let's click on it. Now, this supplier is Walmart. Obviously, we can't dive too much into the breakdowns of this supplier, Trustpilot, and their details because the supplier is Walmart. You know, everybody knows Walmart. Amazon knows Walmart. Like, you could buy from Walmart. It's trusted. Now, I don't recommend having your source sites or suppliers as Walmart and Target because they're too big of retailers. It's a saturated market. Everybody goes to buy from there, doing Amazon OA or just Amazon in general. So you want to find a smaller supplier. But if we're analyzing pricing and just basic searching here, Walmart pops up and the pricing is $117 for an 8-pack. Also, this is sold by an independent seller. That's a whole nother story for another day, but because there's an opportunity to sell in Walmart. But this seller is selling it at $117 for a pack of 8. Okay, let's go here into our calculator, right? 117 divided by 8. $14.62 per unit. All right, not bad. Times 3, $43.87. So this listing is also a pack of 3. All right, and it's selling at $69.95. If we were to get this product at, you know, let's say for example, $43.95 plus the cloth and everything, we would find no success because, you know, you have to get the cloth. First of all, just the product alone is $43.95. You would have to get the cloth for basically free and pennies, right? So it wouldn't work out. But if this was just the, you know, the product, the cameras, 3 cameras, you're looking at 32% ROI, $14 profit per item, $69 at a sale price, making, you know, 20.37% on margin, on profit margin. Okay. For face value, a really good value, a good price, good profit, good ROI, and everything. Now, our source site is Walmart. We're not going to focus on Walmart, and that's kind of something that we don't want to pay attention to. But for face value and for profit circumstances, this looks like an opportunity, okay? So let me dive back into the broad search here of Google. And this is how you're going to do it. What you do is, of course, you're going to have these sponsored ones and like these first picked ones by Google, which sometimes they're good, right? But remember, the best products that you're going to find to sell on Amazon for years over years, months over months, are going to be the hardest ones to find. Because if everybody can do it, they're all going to do it. The pricing is going to tank. Everybody's going to jump on the listing. The pricing is going to go whoop, right down. Okay. So you want to find the source sites that are smaller. And guys, of course, we're talking about OA here. We're talking about retailers. We're not talking about wholesale. If it was for wholesale, yeah, you're going to want to find the smaller wholesalers as well, which is a completely different approach and tactic to finding these suppliers. But for OA, you want to find the smaller retailers that we can actually trust, right? Like if it says jayslarosa.com and I'm a camera seller, how can you trust me? Trustpilot reviews, so on. You have to go through that process, right? Obviously, Walmart and Target and Walgreens and so on, you can trust, but the money's not in those, right? And the opportunity is not in those because those listings are going to tank. The opportunity is in the smaller distributors. And that doesn't mean like independent sellers on eBay. It means actual distributors, or actual smaller retailers and distributors. So what I'm doing here, I'm literally just going down a list of potential suppliers or retailers for this product. And like I said, the smaller ones, the better. So if you have to go on to page 2, page 2 is good. All right. Page 2 is good for Amazon because we're finding the smaller ones. All right. So you have a bunch of different companies popping up, Walmart, eBay, etc. But essentially, the process, you even have Reddit listings coming up, right? The process of sourcing for a source site is a lot of digging and scraping, all right? Digging and scraping to see, wait, who is going to supply this product at a profitable price and who's going to ensure that it gets actually to my doorstep, all right? Because if it doesn't, then we're in trouble, all right? But for example, this is a supplier. It was actually the same seller that was on Walmart. They're a big company, you could tell, Adorama and so on. But this is their site. And it's the same exact product that I'm popping up on here on their site. And they're selling a 6-pack, same thing, with a bag included, which you can probably work without the bag, but it's 27 exposures, flash camera, same exact thing. Obviously, you have to do your checks, go back and forth, make sure it's the same exact product, but which doesn't look like the same for the face value. It does, but on a broader scale, if we're looking to buy today, you have to deep dive into it more and more. But for a pack of 6, I mean, you get the bag kind of as a throw on, but let's just call it $100. Now the source cost is $50, okay? So more expensive what they're selling on Walmart because obviously the pricing is higher, right? But you go through here, right? So now just for face value, let's forget the pricing, let's forget the accessories and the add-ons and such. We want to validate this supplier to make sure, okay, this is a good supplier that we can buy from, right? And now listen, if you're doing OA, you're buying from retailers. This is what they are. Adorama's a retailer. Who's to stop you from saying that, yeah, that you can buy it in bulk if you just contact them? Of course you can. I've done it millions of times. But for most of the time, they're just a retailer. They're selling to independent customers who are the end customer, who are going to use the product, take the pictures, right? They're not looking to sell to an Amazon seller, all right? Most of the time, they're not really in the business of doing that. They're in the business of selling to retail customers because they have their customers. But what you want to do is you want to essentially go here. You're on their website. I always, from now on, contact a retailer just to confirm. Like, hey, do you guys allow bulk purchases so you can get a bulk purchase? But you just want to validate the supplier to make sure they're real. Now, of course, cashback is popping up, Rakuten and Top Cashback, which I'll talk about in later videos. But so we know that they're a trusted supplier and they're pretty big. And the site is really well put together, right? Free shipping. They're probably a bigger company. I never heard of them, but you guys, maybe you have. And, obviously it's a proper company. But if you see a website where it looks like it's not very proper and it's not really put together, the checkout page is laggy, well, some red flags have to go into your head because, yeah, maybe they're the best buy cost. Maybe you can make 45% ROI, but you're never going to get the product because maybe they're not a validated supplier and they're just not realistic. Maybe they don't supply it in that kind of quantity. Maybe the listing's not updated. It's misleading, right? But for the most part, this listing looks good. It looks updated. Obviously, there's a slinger camera bag, and we have to figure out the 2 accessories here. But for the most part, it's updated, and it looks good. So what I would do here, let's confirm, do all of our checks to make sure this supplier is good, and it's ensured that we're going to get this product. So what I do here, I go into Trustpilot. I'm going to go Adorama, Trustpilot, right here in the Google, right? Very simple. It's going to pop up. Trustpilot's used by millions of people worldwide, and they have millions of reviews, all right? So you go into Trustpilot, and you're just going to look for the most recent reviews because you never know if back in the day they had older management and nowadays they have new management and they're all successful and so on. So you never know. You want to look for the most recent reviews and look for the total stars of the reviews, but also you want to see the 1-star reviews. Now, this company says 4.4 stars, excellent 2K ratings, but they do have a lot of 1 stars, which is concerning. But you just want to evaluate it. Use your intuition, making sure that you're buying a proper product, that it's authentic, that it's going to arrive, good everything that you deal with a company, regular customer service, okay? And you just want to go through the reviews here. We're going to go into the most recent reviews. Click see all. Let's see, most recent. Perfect. It's ready on it. You have a day ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago, 5 days ago. Okay, a lot of 5 stars, okay? And unless these are faked, which, you can probably read it and just see if they're real or not. They're a pretty decent company. All right, here we go. Item I returned was damaged and it was in the box with return stuff by the previous customer. Okay, so then they get some bad reviews here and there. But the good news is Adorama actually replies, all right? So that's actually good. So they show that they're actually worthy of a company of replying and figuring out disputes and getting them settled. So like I said, on a bigger scale, if it's a big company, you don't have to worry. You don't really even have to do this. If you know them by name, you just know how they work and how they operate. But if it's a smaller company, 100% do this, right? And if they don't have Trustpilot as a smaller company, just contact them. See if they respond. See if they have a .com email. See if how they respond, right? See if they have a business address where their retail shop is located, where you can see a picture of it outside of Google Maps, right? You just have to do that extra due diligence and deep dive, even if it takes 30 minutes to do it and it takes an extra day to buy the product, rather than buying the product, $1,000 worth of inventory, and guessing if it's either authentic or if it's going to arrive. It's no fun in doing that, right? But just off of what we've done so far, you can see how quickly you can just see a ton of suppliers that are saying, look, buy my product. Now, not every supplier is going to say buy 100 million units of my product, because they're meant for end customers. So we have to work on, jigging and getting orders through and getting 10 units at a time, not a million units at a time, maybe 15 units at a time, however it may work. If it was wholesale, of course, you can get as many as you want because the supplier is going to want that. But you also have to buy according to how well the listing sells. If the listing does 200 times a month, would you buy 1,000 unless you were expecting a big jump in December or Christmas? No, because you're sitting on a lot of stock. You want to buy stock for at least 45 days, okay? So you have to remember too, if it sells 200 times a month, does that mean us as the independent seller are going to get all 200 sales of the month? Probably not, right? Unless we absolutely dominate buy box. So you have to go into the Keepa, go into the SellerAmp, look at the buy box statistics and see, okay, we could win 30 sales here, maybe 50 sales, maybe 70 sales, okay? So just off of this though, you see the retailer, you see the supplier, they're popping up kind of right at you, and you say, okay, this is how I can just find suppliers literally by Google search. I have not changed my method in 3.5 years, and I've scaled my business very healthily. So don't overlook it. Don't overlook at finding suppliers. I mean, obviously you can go local and so on, but this is one of the easiest methods to find them, all right? So now, if we dive back here into our guide and our course guide here, we talked about how to find suppliers, how to contact them, right? You're just going to their contact email, or you're just going to their contact form at the bottom of their page, which I'll show you if you want to dive into it, which Adorama has here. Typically, if you just go to the bottom, you can hear where it says somewhere, it probably says contact, customer service, contact us. There you go. Bottom left right here, contact us. So they have a phone number too. That's a great sign because you can even call them to get confirmation. But so they have the questions. You can email them here. They probably have their email somewhere. So yeah, you can just email them and go from there. So you can email them, or you can just do the contact form, or you can call them if you can't wait. All right. So, and that's how you contact them. Now let's dive back in to our supplier, or to our course guide, right? So when it comes to comparing suppliers, there's a few different metrics that you want to look for, because price is not always the end all be all, right? Because price might be great, but what does it matter if the product's not authentic, or if we can't trust that it will arrive to our prep center or to our address to then ship it to Amazon, right? Because then we just can't sell the product. Then we're just losing because we're getting scammed, right? So when you evaluate comparing suppliers, look at the supplier and literally draw a T-chart on a piece of paper and say, okay, on the left side, this is this supplier. On the right side, this is this supplier. And you could do Walmart and let's call small retailer, right? So just for this example, let's say Walmart and actually that's a bad example. Let's do Walgreens because that's maybe a better buying opportunity for Amazon FBA products. So Walgreens and Jay's Beauty Store, okay? So we have two retailers, basically two suppliers that you want to picture. Now, you want to go down the list and do some checks and balances. Say, who's the bigger supplier? Who's more well-known? Okay, give the point to that supplier. Okay, who has better reviews on Trustpilot or other review sites? Give the point to that supplier. Who has better pricing? Give the point to that supplier. Who has better communication when you send an email or when you send a contact form or you call them or you see their Google address? Give a point to that supplier. Break everything down and look at the future of the relationship with the supplier to see if you can buy, a lot of units and a lot of orders going forward. Because if you can only buy 5 units at Walgreens, but you can buy 500 units at Jay's Beauty Shop, and let's say the price difference was very, very little, like 1% ROI, well, then you're going to opt to go for Jay's Beauty Shop just because it saves you time and the ease of doing business, right, with selling products on Amazon. So you have to just lay them out in a T-chart. And if it's multiple suppliers, put them all in the T-chart, right? Evaluate them one by one, do all of our checks and balances to confirm that they are an authentic supplier. They're good, they're going to benefit us in the long run, and they're better than our other comparisons and better suppliers. So that's what you really want to evaluate when you're comparing suppliers and seeing which one's better or not, okay? Now, choosing a prep center over self-prep for remote lifestyle. Guys, you know this by now, right? I've been traveling the world for 3 years and I wouldn't be able to do it without having a prep center, without having a place to ship my inventory to where they can pick and pack it and send it to Amazon's fulfillment centers. I have an entire video on how to, work with a prep center, how to find them, how to utilize them, etc. But it's so critical to have a prep center nowadays with Amazon, with e-commerce in general, because you don't have to handle or touch the inventory, right? Obviously, I wouldn't be able to travel the world or be location independent if I had to touch the inventory. But even if you had a warehouse or if you wanted to save a little money by bringing products into your house, then you would never scale at a long-term basis and you would never be completely happy with yourself because you would have products in your home, or you would be worried about taking care of your warehouse, having employees, and it just creates this headache. Just bake in an extra cost, 50 cents, a dollar, $1.50 per unit into the fact that you're sending units to a prep center. Now, the only thing you have to worry about is your communication. Make sure you have a high communication with the prep center, with you and the prep center. You have a good relationship, good contact form, whether you're doing email or text or phone call, whatever it may be. So that way no problems arise or get out of hand, right? Because think about it. In a broad scale of things, if you're selling products that are making you $20 to $21 profit per unit, or even 10 to 15, what is 50 cents or what is a dollar, right? And I know, yeah, it comes out to maybe 5% ROI, 3% ROI, or even 2% ROI, but it gives you complete location independence and freedom to do this from anywhere in the world. Yeah, you can save maybe a little bit extra money, not even really if you had a warehouse because you have to pay employees and fees and insurance and so on. But let them do that for you. That's why they exist. That's why they're here. And that's why there's thousands of them across the United States and thousands across the world. And there's new ones coming up every day. And a lot of them are very, very high quality to take care of customers like you and I who are trying to sell on these marketplaces. So you have to go with a prep center because that's the only way you do Amazon FBA completely remote. A prep center can do everything that you would do in your home and they do it 10 times better, 10 times faster. And you can do FBM out of a prep center if you really, really wanted to, right? It's possible. You can do FBA. They do Walmart selling. They do TikTok. It goes on and on and on. We won't get into it too much, but going with a prep center is critical. Okay. So now, how to use a prep center step by step. So to use a prep center, you have to have a good communication platform. Majority of these prep centers are going to have some sort of software or communication platform like Slack, like WhatsApp, like text, or just a software in general where you can log information on there when you're sending an inbound inventory. But you have to have high valued communication. So that way the prep center knows what's receiving and what has to go outgoing, right? A lot of them always have a software or they integrate with some of the softwares on Amazon like Inventory Labs or just Seller Central in general where they can send the shipments. Because what you do is you give them access as like an admin or an employee to your Seller Central, and they also become a user on your Seller Central, and they can go in and create inbound shipments for different products and send the inventory into Amazon, okay? So it's important to have high communication and make sure the prep center has a really good software communication tool to log information. Now, if they have a backend software, even if they use Google Sheets or Excel sheets, you can actually log information into those softwares and say, hey, 100 units of Kong dog balls are coming in from this supplier, XYZ. Okay. And, it's a packet XYZ. This is the ASIN number. Remember, every listing is a unique ASIN. This is the listing, et cetera. All the information is there. It's in a spreadsheet, just like, any other spreadsheet that you would create. And then the prep center understands what's coming in. They have inbound, a warehouse team. They take it in, they put it in the prep center, they prep it and they ship it, put the label on it. Just exactly what you would do, but at a warehouse level scale, much faster, much better, and way less liability for you. Okay. So it's literally crucial to have a high communication platform with these prep centers, which typically they provide and don't even charge for. They just charge for the operations of doing business, which is 50 cents, a dollar, $1.50, and it goes up if you do it with multi-packs, right? So it's important to kind of evaluate that and look at it at a broad scale. Now, I have an entire video on how to basically search for a prep center, communicate with a prep center, deal with a prep center, or expand with a prep center, right? Because they take in pallets and so on if you're doing wholesale. But that gives you a really good rundown on why a prep center is important, how to use them, how to talk with them. And if you have any questions, of course, always put them in the comments below. All right. Now, Part number 4. Who's ready for this? Setting up your Amazon business. To sell on Amazon, you have to have the Amazon Seller Central account to actually list products in the marketplace. You can't do any of the stuff that we talked about with having a Seller Central account. You can do it on different platforms, but it's not what we went over, okay? So step number 1 is creating a Seller Central account, and what you want that to be is a professional plan. Let's go in and do that. You're gonna go to sell.amazon.com, all right? Now, I can't hit the sign up button because it's going to take me to, it's going to take me to my own account that I have with Amazon, but or that might take me to the login button, etc. But you just hit sign up with Amazon.com. They're going to ask you very normal and preliminary questions like your name, your address, your social security, some of your details and so on. And no, you don't need to have a business, which I'm going to talk about. Eventually, at scale, as you grow, you get a business. But to start, you just be an individual. Now, you want to sign up for a professional account because the only way to do Amazon the right way is to sign up for a professional account. Otherwise, if you signed up for an individual account, you would pay for these fees and these dollar fees and whatever. It adds up to be way, way, way more than a professional account. All a professional account is $40 a month. $40 a month to have complete freedom and access to all of Amazon's marketing tools, products to sell, everything, all right there. With just $40 a month, it's literally crazy, right? So you have to sign up for a professional account, pay the $40 a month, and start selling with Amazon. But you go through this preliminary process. You might have to send in just to confirm that your address is your address and other details like that. And then you're going to get maybe on a quick 1-minute video call with an Amazon customer specialist, or sometimes you don't have to. I think I did. And then they're going to say, congrats, you're approved. You are ready to start selling on Amazon. So it's simple as that, kind of 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to dive back into the guide here. So we have our Seller Central account. We have our professional plan. If you want to, pause this video, go in and create up your Seller Central account, and then come back into this video to start going through the rest of the stuff. Now, we're at business setup. This is where you set up the LLC and the EIN. Remember, guys, it's not needed. It's not necessary. If you really want to set up a business around this and just do it from the get-go and get it done. I didn't set up a business around it till it was 4 or 5 months in, which was totally fine. I was at 10K sales a month before I even had a business around Amazon FBA. But if you want to do that, you just go to startmyllc.com and set up a business, right? Now, for many states, like there's no fees or such, but if we go here, like open an LLC, it's different for every state, but you're going to see many platforms. And if you've ever opened a business before, you're going to see LegalZoom, Taylor Brands, what else? Northeast Registered Agent. You're going to see all these individual agents and so on, right? So you have to go in and set up a business. It's very simple. They give you an EIN number, which basically associates your business with the government of the United States. And, it's different for every single country. So if you're in the UK or Canada, they have their own policies to set up a business, and they give you a different number that registers with their policies and so on. But it's very simple. You set up your business account. Once it's set up, you have to set up a business bank account, right? Because Amazon wants to make sure, if you have a business, you typically want to attach it to a business bank account, right? Because you're going to do everything legit and not have your personal bank account and business bank account. So you have to make the decision if you want to go all into becoming a business here on the platform. And there's no really difference. It's just like title and status. It's for yourself and for your own tax purposes and whatnot. But you have a business, and you also set up a business bank account, which you can go to your local bank, TD Ameritrade, Chase, Blue Vine. I use Blue Vine, but there's millions of different banks out there where you can use and have a business bank account. Okay. Now we got that kind of set up. Now let's talk about Amazon account health basics. So, and Amazon policies beginners must know, right? So like I always said, Amazon is always going to value the integrity of the marketplace. That's why they do things so successfully, Amazon, because people can trust their speed, their authenticity, and their customer service, right? No matter what. For them to have 60% of their selling base as third-party sellers like you and I, random people that they never met in person, can't really trust outside of the small background check, they have to have some sort of basis of checks and balances. I know I've said that a ton, but for us sellers to make sure that we are compliant and that we are good, proper sellers, right? So every single seller has Amazon account health. And on that Amazon account health, there's all these different categories of potential complaints that we can get from customers or errors on our account, like pricing error or inbound shipment error. Let's say if we said we were going to send in 100 units, but we sent in 10, and then Amazon's going to be like, well, what the heck? This is completely different from what you said you were going to send in. So, like they have a lot of metrics on the back end where you can see how you are performing in every single category. And then at the end, they give you this big score for every seller of like, okay, you have 200, your score. I think every seller starts off with 200. Maybe it's lower, but your account health rating is 200 and it's out of 1,000. I know it sounds like, oh, that's so low, but you get 4 points every time you get like 100 sales, or such, or every time you get a review. I don't know the exact metric or whatever, but your account health grows over time as you continue to sell in the marketplace and actually sell products. And as you know, the higher the better, right? Like as you get to 1,000, you're basically like a perfect seller, right? Because like you have no complaints, you've been doing this for a while, Amazon can really trust you. And once you have 6 months of being over 200 or 240 or 80, whatever it is, there's a certain number where Amazon gives you their account health insurance. So basically they'll tell you nothing bad will happen on your account. We won't, punish you in any way before contacting you. So Amazon directly will call you or send you an email to say, hey, what happened with this issue? Do we have to take action? Do we have to look into this further and make sure that you're compliant with Amazon's policies and so on? So it's really good that they implemented that. That was like 2 years ago. And it's good to be in account health insurance, knowing that you are stable with the marketplace. Okay. So there's that. Now, Amazon policies beginners must know. It's really just that. It's really just staying compliant with health, and knowing that you are a proper Amazon seller and you're doing things right. And there's no, issues that are going to pop up, because as far as this, like you have to stay compliant with Amazon to continue to sell in the marketplace. So if you know this, then you're in good shape. The only major policy complaint that many beginners get who just don't really know what they're doing on the marketplace, which is going to be very valuable information for you, is IP complaints, which IP stands for intellectual property complaints. And those are essentially complaints from brands or Amazon themselves on products that you're selling without the brand wanting you to sell it. That's the best way to put it, right? And now those IP complaints range from like 9 to 10, 11 different categories and ways they like word it, right? Sometimes they might say it's inauthentic. Sometimes they might say that like selling without approval, all this different stuff that, that are able to happen as like strikes on your account. And of course you have the chance to review it and, appeal it and show why you are compliant or why you were able to sell it or why it's authentic, right? All these different processes, just like any other, judicial process of sending it to Amazon. It's nothing really crazy to worry about, because these happen every day, all the time, to all sellers. But you just have to be on top of, submitting your invoices, making sure you're buying from proper retailers, proper suppliers, where Amazon can say, okay, it's really good, authentic inventory, the brand, you don't have to worry, and then we'll allow you to keep selling the product, right? So that's really important to know when it comes to a policy beginner, because that's what many of you might face in the early days. If you're kind of just guessing and checking and you don't really have guidance with Amazon, that's kind of something important to note. But you always want to fight them right away and make sure they get off your account so Amazon can say, okay, no, it's okay. Like you won't get your Amazon account like taken down from one policy complaint unless it's like very, very devastating, like something critical. Like I can't even imagine what would be like so critical. But for the most part, just make sure you're compliant with doing the proper things, having good invoices, and Amazon's going to welcome you onto the marketplace, right? So that's part 4. Part 5, we're moving a little bit quicker here. We're going to dive into sending your first shipment, okay? So this next part is going to be how to send a shipment with Amazon. Now, for many of you doing this completely remote and having it handled through your prep center who has their own software, who has access to your Seller Central, you won't need to do this, right? Ever. Because the prep center is going to be doing this. They're going to be logging the inventory, telling Amazon what's coming in, what you need to be prepared for, these fulfillment centers, and packaging the box and so on. But it should be important for you guys to know at least how the concept works, just in case your prep center needed you to do it, or if you did it at your own house, or if you did it yourself, right? So let's dive into it and how to send your shipment with Amazon. And we're going to dive into Seller Central, and it's going to be pretty simple. Okay? All right. For many of you, this will be your first time seeing Seller Central and what it looks like. Now I'm going to put myself here on the right just for now, not that it matters too much. But this is what Seller Central's sending a shipment platform looks like, right? And if you don't know by now, Seller Central is one big old website or platform or software that Amazon uses for all of us sellers, and they call it Seller Central, right? That's where you can manage your inventory, send shipments, price, everything you need to know on Seller Central or on Amazon is for a seller is on Seller Central. Okay. So this is exactly how you actually ship the product. Now, the one that we were going over before, the Fujifilm, remember that? The camera film product, I actually pulled that into our catalog here, which we have here now. And I'm going to go and send a shipment to tell Amazon, hey, this is what's coming in. And again, if you're doing with this a prep center, you don't have to do this. The prep center takes care of this, but it's just good to know. So first things first, let's say, for example, I'm sending in 10 units, right, of this Fujifilm product. I bought it from, Target, and I'm sending it into Amazon because I believe it's a good ROI and profitable price, and we're going to let them take care of it. And let's say, for this example, you're shipping this from your house, okay? So first thing you do is you have to tell Amazon what the prep and labeling is that's required. Popping this back over here, right? So you have to tell Amazon what is required for prep, and every product, and this is good insight for you, has to be prepped some way to Amazon, right? And the minimum prep is just slapping a label on the product, right? So let's say, for example, these glasses were a product we were sending into Amazon. Hopefully they would be in a box or some type of packaging because they're just like left out. But you need to essentially print an FNSQ label, which is a small label. It's very, very tiny. That goes on the product to send to Amazon, right? And that way Amazon can take their little barcode reader, scan the product, and count the inventory towards you and towards that listing, right? So then when you get a sale, they know exactly what product to get, and they also have to count, give the sale to you, right? Because you're selling the product. There's multiple people maybe selling this product, right? So every single product has an FNSQ label that you have to stick on the product. Most products, 60 to 70% of them are going to require a poly bag, right? A poly bag is a little bag that's clear and says some like warning labels on it that you put the package in. So if I had a poly bag here, I would put my glasses in the poly bag, fold it, close it, and put the label on the outside of the poly bag. And then I would put the product in the box, okay? And then if I have 50, I would then put 50 units in the box and then close up the box, okay? But for our case, no prep is needed, because there's also a way and ability for Amazon to do the prep, which is more expensive than a prep center typically, unless you're working like directly with the manufacturer. But you're just going to hit no prep needed, okay? So Amazon knows nothing has to happen, and then who will label the units? It's just that you're going to get this message that pops up, and you're going to say seller, okay? And then you hit save. Now, Amazon says, okay, you're good. No prep needed. Got it. Now, how many units are coming? That's where you type in here on the far right where it says units. Let's say 10, okay? 10 units, ready to pack, right? It's very, very simple, and it kind of walks you through this guide. You could probably do it on your own. Total prep and labeling fees, make sure it says zero unless you're having Amazon do the prep, which is like 60, 70 cents a unit. So let's let it load. It's validating contents. It's confirming what is in our shipment and the products that's in our shipment. But it's very self-explanatory. Here it comes loading, kind of how the platform looks and what it's kind of representing, because Amazon created it to be easy to read and to look at, because if it wasn't, nobody would know how to do this, all right? So then you have to basically tell Amazon, is it multiple boxes that you're shipping this product in, or is it one box? For this case, it's one box. Everything will fit into one box because the box isn't going to be that big. It's only 10 units. Now, for example, you have to measure the box size and the weight. Let's say the box is 10 by 10 by 10 even, and it's 20 pounds, right? In the UK, they go by kg, and Europe as well. But here's something important to know, and your prep center will know this. The box can't be bigger than 25 inches on a side, and it can't be more than 50 pounds. Understandable, because Amazon's employees don't want to just like get sued, or Amazon doesn't want to get sued by their employees for just like getting hurt, because 50 pounds is pretty heavy. So that's the max. And if you ship anything over that, you're going to get a violation on your account, all right? Then you want to hit confirm packing information. I have my box labeled with my units. Everything is in there. I have the box size. I'm telling Amazon what's coming, all right? Then you hit confirm and continue. Let's keep it going. Amazon's saying, let's go all the way to the end where we know what's coming in, all the way to the point where you put a label on the box. All right. Let's let it load, let it load. It's going to tell me what the cost of these fees are, which they have these fees to basically distribute the products to their fulfillment centers across, all the world basically. Because they have, like I said earlier in the video, they have to have inventory in all these places in the US, or else if I buy a product from Connecticut and there's only stock in California, my prime shipping is not happening. It doesn't exist. It's impossible. Okay. So they have to put inventory over there. So they distribute it and they call it the placement fee. All right. Placement, putting the product in different spots. All right. Now, shipping is going to cost $11 to UPS. That is so cheap, right? You can even see what warehouse it's shipping to. I don't know if it says it here yet, but that is, it says down here. It's going to say Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee. That's the Amazon fulfillment center that it ships it to. It gives you like a little bit of insight. Not that it matters too much, but you can see that. Then, like I said, that is so cheap. $11 to ship a 20-pound box, 10 by 10 by 10 to Tennessee. If you went to UPS, dropped it off, and went to ship it, they would charge you at least $50, $60, 100%. And Amazon's price is always around $10 to $15, even if the box is 50 pounds. Now, the placement fee goes up depending on how many units you're sending, and they charge like a small fee on the units. But to ship, like 10 units, 20 pounds, $11, that's so cheap, right? Not even $1 a unit. Now, what you want to get down to is like 20 cents, 30 cents a unit, because that plus the prep turns out to be like $1, but you just have to ship a lot more products, right? So essentially what you do is you just hit accept charges and confirm shipping, and then you just print the box labels. You're going to get 2 labels. One label from Amazon, which you're telling Amazon what's coming in. They have to know what's coming in, who the seller is and how much inventory and what product it is. That goes on the box. And the second label is for UPS because you're buying and shipping through UPS. So you have to buy the label and put the UPS label on as well, right? So you get 2 labels from Amazon when you go and send the shipment. Put them on both sides of the box, opposite sides, doesn't matter too much. And then if you're doing it yourself out of your warehouse, or your house, you can either schedule UPS pickup. I think it's $9 to come and pick it up. Or if it's only 1 box, just go drop it off your local UPS carrier, drop the box off, let them go on their way, right? To go on and start sending the shipment actually to Amazon. Now, what the process looks like is Amazon just takes in the inventory to their fulfillment center. They scan the label. They basically tell your Seller Central, the coordination or communication from the software, says, hey, jayslarosa has 10 units in stock of this Fujifilm product. There you go. You're live and ready to sell, and I'll stay competitive on the pricing and the buy box, and you're starting to get sales. So just like that, you went from full A to Z from sourcing to shipping. Now, if you had a prep center, you wouldn't have to do the shipping part of it. Obviously, you just have to become like the brains and mastermind behind sending the inventory to them. But they would just ship out the product and do this exact same process, and you would just never touch the product and just wait for your inventory to become live and then sell it, okay? So that's how you send a shipment pretty much A to Z, okay? It's pretty simple, shipping plans. And if you do multiple units, multiple products, you can mix and match it in the boxes. You can do it all, right? You can have multiple boxes, 5 boxes, 7 boxes, scheduling UPS pickup. And if you do it at scale as you grow, you can, do pallets, right? Where you're stacking complete pallets, and your prep center can take care of that for you. But if you do it yourself, you probably need a warehouse or some sort of big garage, right? Or storage center, right? To do that. So now let's talk a little bit about shipping timelines and what to expect. I think I went over it very briefly earlier in the video, but shipping timelines. To go into Amazon, if you're shipping to Tennessee, by the time you ship it to the time it checks in, it could be anywhere as fast as 4 days. And it could be as long as, 14 days, right? Or even longer during like the hot months or seasons, because Amazon has to not only take in the box to their fulfillment center. You can imagine they get millions of boxes every day. And they have to then open the box, one of the employees, scan it, and then assign it to the warehouse to make sure that the inventory is live. So it could take some time. And that's why when you're analyzing the listing and reading the charts to make sure that okay, if I sell this product, like it's still going to be consistent pricing within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks when I start to have my inventory check in and sell through. So you have to make a little bit of a foresight decision on when you're selling a product. All right. So now there you go. That's exactly how you send a shipment. Now you have the 5-part series so far. Now, part 6, which is optimizing and scaling your Amazon business. All right, guys, we have gotten through so much in the first 5 parts. Feel free to pat yourself on the back. Pause the video, come back to it tomorrow. I'll be here still, but we're on to part 6 here. And this is optimizing and scaling your business. We now know how to source a product, sell the product or ship it, and then sell it and start getting sales. But how do we make this into a full business model where we can start making $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 every single month? Okay. And the first step to that is restocking listings that are doing well. Guys, if you found a winning product that you can sell consistently and make money on, just restock the listing and make sure you're not running out of inventory. Continue to buy those units on a monthly basis, making sure you're in stock, making sure you're doing your projections right. If the listing sells 100 times a month, you're buying, for 45 days, or even, in the earlier days, you're going to test buy a few units and buy. But once you feel comfortable, make sure you have enough stock in there to continue to sell through and have a consistent basis and sell over time. Okay. So making sure that you're in stock is number one, right? Now, once you're in stock, you're going to find some difficulties by staying in stock by doing online arbitrage on high volume listings, unless you have a supplier who can give you the product in bulk, right? So if you're buying from an online arbitrage retailer and they only allow 10 units at a time per purchase, and the listing sells 1,000 times a month, well, you would have to make 100 orders hitting the button to get enough units to stay in stock for the month if you were able to sell 1,000 units a month. That's really, really hard to keep up with, right? And to do that with 5, 6 other products and still managing different aspects of the Seller Central account, it's like that's very hectic and confusing. So let's introduce Amazon Wholesale. And we won't go into it too much, but Amazon Wholesale is doing exactly what Amazon Arbitrage is, but on a bigger scale by buying in bulk and by getting discounts, okay? So Amazon Wholesale is real relationships with distributors, with manufacturers, with wholesalers, and being a real business and being a real company. So now you're actually buying 500, 1,000, 200 units from the supplier at a time. They're sending you invoices, you're purchasing from them, you're buying on a monthly basis, you're building good relationships with them. You might even be taking them out to dinner, who knows, right? So doing Amazon Wholesale is a very consistent method to growing and scaling with Amazon, because you're able to just buy and sell more inventory than you would do with working with a retailer. It's kind of self-explanatory. And Amazon Wholesale is one of the most lucrative business models in 2025. And, obviously people have been getting into it because you can just scale the business much, much more faster. Obviously, I do a ton of Amazon Wholesale right now, and I'm able to ship in pallets to a prep center. They could ship it out. I have good relationships with suppliers where the supplier comes to me every month and they say, hey, Jay, do you want to buy this item? Hey, Jay, do you want to buy this item, right? And I get that every single month and every single day and week, where people are just coming to me with opportunities. And I can even go to them and be like, hey, do you guys carry this product? Would you be able to supply it at 16? Yes. And there you go, right? So there's multiple opportunities with Amazon Wholesale, and it's one of the best business models to get in, especially here in 2025. And that's kind of a broad rundown on it. Now, I also have a video on my channel that's about 25 or 30 minutes long that talks all about Amazon Wholesale, how to do it, how to source products, and so on. And I recommend you guys checking that out, right? Next, doing Amazon FBA 100% remote. And this kind of goes into the next one, which calls SOPs and sheets. Guys, to do any business remote, you have to be organized. And to do Amazon FBA remote, you especially have to be organized. You have to have proper sheets, proper systems in place with how you talk to your supplier, how you track orders, how you track shipments, how you just understand the business like the back of your hand without being like a crazy fireman, right? And a crazy fireman, I just mean like putting out fires all day. You want to have a proper system where everything in the business is going checks and balances. Everything's going smooth. And I know I've said that like 5 or 6 times in this video, but it's so critical to scale and do your Amazon business successfully when you're doing that, right? And doing it 100% remote, it's not possible if you don't have a system do time and time again. Because if you don't know what you're doing and you're always changing your methods, changing your rhythms, then you can't do Amazon FBA remote, because you'd be stuck in a room all day long, going crazy, right? So it's important to remember that SOPs and sheets, which is standard operating systems, and then sheets like tracking sheets, like your orders, outbound inventory and such, is all in one place. And then you can organize it in a Google Drive. And that way, when you're doing Amazon FBA remote, let's say you're traveling the world in Africa, Italy, Thailand, wherever, you can literally just open up your laptop, look at your sheets, look at your processes, and make sure that the business is going well, and just do your day-to-day tasks that you have to do and continue about your day, right? So that's so critical. I would not have been able to do it for the past 3 years, traveling and doing Amazon FBA remote, and continue to do it if I didn't have proper SOPs and sheets and other things like that, right? Now, what also helps doing Amazon FBA completely remote is outsourcing. So outsourcing means hiring a virtual assistant overseas who's able to help you with tasks and manage the business. And there are thousands of team members overseas looking and ready to work in your Amazon business who are familiar with product sourcing, familiar with data entry, account management, account health management. Everything that you can imagine in an Amazon business can be outsourced to a team. But the question is, and the reality is, when is the time to do it? Because you don't want to do it too early and you don't want to do it too late when you're pulling your hair out. So you really want to learn the business model first, learn how to source, learn how to send shipments, start getting some sales and making some profit on your inventory so that you can be confident in selling through your products month over month and week over week, and you're actually making money in the business. And then when you get to a certain level in the business where it just gets too much, where sourcing gets too much, data entry, management, tracking, all gets too much, then you want to look to outsource, right? Which I'll have an entire video on of how to outsource, how to hire employees, how to hire VAs overseas, because it's cheap, it's effective, it's cost effective, and it's scalable, right? So you don't want to do it too early, but you also don't want to do it too late when you're, pulling your hair out. And the first role to outsource virtually is sourcing, so that you can always have products to buy on a day over day, week over week basis, where you're never having to worry about what's my next product to buy. I have all this money to spend on inventory, but now I can't make any money this month because I don't know what products to buy. So outsourcing sourcing is critical, but having SOPs and sheets and trainings on how to outsource is going to be very important as well. And I'm going to have so many more sheets or videos on sheets and SOPs going forward so that you can do this completely laid back on a beach without having to worry, right? But there's kind of a rundown on how to outsource or when to outsource and hire and bring and start people, right? And I know you can do this completely alone, and it's, at a high scale, but just take the pressure off yourself and be smart and hire somebody when you need to so that things don't get too much, all right? Now, final thoughts, all right? This is the last module here of our long course here on Amazon. And the final thoughts are, first thing here, the recap of my journey. This has been unbelievable. And if you've seen my videos before doing Amazon FBA completely remote while traveling the world, it has changed my life to the T. I cannot preach this enough. I can scream it from the top of a mountain in Cape Town. Like, I've been able to learn and meet so many people while building a remote business, while also not having to physically be in a location and worry about the business 24/7. Yes, I've scaled the business, have scaled with SOPs, systems, and team members, which I've talked about in this video. But it's just such a blessing to not have to focus on a business 24/7. And I'm able to grow and scale at a smooth rate. And my journey has been unbelievable. And I can't wait to be in Amazon for the next 10, 20, 30 years and grow with the marketplace as it becomes more popular. It's already very popular. And as e-commerce continues to become the wave and the new era and industry of the world. So yeah, it's been absolutely unbelievable. And, leading to my next point, what's possible with consistency, guys? Example A. And I'm not saying that to brag. I literally started Amazon FBA with $200 to my name, not just in my bank account, to my name. I was still in school, stopped playing sports and football and such. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I just focused, I sourced, I grinded, I just figured it out month over month, because I knew 12 months, 365 days from the day I started Amazon FBA, I was traveling the world no matter what. I don't care if I was going to go into debt. I was going to try to figure it out to travel the world. And I'm example A of what happens with consistency, because at month 3, month 4, I started to find winners. I started to continue to win. And now look at that. Here I am in year 3. I've done $1.5 million in sales, and I'm on track to do $1.5 million this year, and hopefully continue to double it and scale it and triple it every single year. But I'm example A of what's possible with consistency, and it's just given me the complete freedom to travel and live my life so freely. And I literally am so grateful. I don't know what I can do to be more grateful to Amazon, to Jeff Bezos. I'd happily buy him coffee or a drink if he's into that. But yeah, I'm literally example A with consistency. And please take it from me and just take your limiting beliefs and throw them out the door. It's possible. A lot of people find success just stick with it, give it a chance, and you're going to find a ton of success. Now, third but not least, as always, I have an email list, and I'm looking to eventually help 1,000 people do Amazon FBA completely remote and travel. So not just do Amazon FBA, but also do Amazon FBA completely remote, so you can also have freedom and location independence from anywhere in the world. So I have an email list, which is in my my YouTube channel, in the link. It's right there at the top. It says newsletter, email list, and I'll be sending the emails there frequently, hopefully, and then eventually try to give 1,000 people a chance to actually learn directly on a detailed long course on how to do Amazon FBA completely remote, how to do it in detail, and how to scale from 0 to 10K, 10K to 100K, and then 100K to $1 million in sales. And it's also going to go over how to scale with a team. And then we're going to talk about how to, sell on Walmart, how to sell on eBay, how to do Amazon wholesale, how to do Amazon FBA direct, and just entirely how to do Amazon FBA. I'm literally taking my entire knowledge and dumping it into the program from this email to help as many people as possible, so that we can do meetups and everything all around the world, right? So there you go. There's our full entire video. I know that it's very long, and pat yourself on the back for hanging out around, sticking around for this. You can also see the Amazon remote logo there on the top right. So pretty cool motivation for you guys to be focused and start doing Amazon FBA and do it completely remote. But thank you so much for sticking around. If you're still here, please like, subscribe, and drop any questions that you have in the comments below, and I will be happily ready to answer them at the click of my feet, because I want to help you guys as much as possible with the email list, and of course with with me as well, to try to help you guys just answering comments or Instagram DMs or Facebook DMs, whatever it may be, to start answering your guys' questions and helping you guys do Amazon FBA completely remote. So thank you so much for watching. Cheers to doing Amazon FBA completely remote from anywhere in the world. And I hope that we are drinking sangrias in Italy in 12 or 24 months time from now, looking back at this saying, hey, I watched your one video on how to do Amazon FBA and completely remote in this entire course, and I found so much success with it. So, all right, guys, there is a 3-hour long, completely free Amazon FBA master course. And thank you guys for sticking around. If you're still here, please like and subscribe so I can continue to make more Amazon FBA content every single day and get you guys traveling the world and starting in a remote business to change your life. So there you go, and see you next time.